As you can see behind me, we did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-box system, we install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're going to give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much going to be a turnkey. So he's going to press start on his computer, and right after we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker, the future is feeling.
After last week's trips to the far-flung reaches of the globe, we return home tonight, as it were, to North American shores and two of the most historic venues in all of motorsports. For the MX-5s, it's Sebring on the club layout, an often used test bed for the likes of IndyCar, but one that rarely sees more than club racing takes to its bumps. And for the GT4s, it's Road America, the national park of speed here in the United States. Now, these two circuits couldn't be any more different, but they are both sure to provide up some phenomenal racing for us here today. Welcome everyone to the PRL Monday Night Series here on RaceSpotTV. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Joey Tevin with our director and producer Hugo Louise behind the scenes. And Joey, we were talking a little bit before the broadcast started here. This 1.7 mile Sebring Club layout going to be a real challenge for these drivers, and taking a little bit longer to get around here than we originally thought.
It's 1.7 miles, but as we talked about, it's tight, it's twisty, there's a couple heavy braking zones, there's plenty of good passing opportunities, and there's a lot of action packed into this short little track. It's a Sebring Club circuit, and that's fitting because it is going to be a party at the Sebring Club circuit. And also Road America, that's coming up later, 4 miles. Everybody knows Road America, everybody knows we're gonna have a good race there, but this is gonna be an interesting one here.
Yeah, it certainly is. And let's go ahead and take a look there at our schedule. You can see we are in week 7. Next week, we'll head off to Japan for the Suzuka West layout. We then get a little bit bigger there in week 9, headed to the Nürburgring Grand Prix layout, and we will end the season at the Silverstone National layout. And so that will go ahead, though, and bring us into our championship. It continues to be Bradley Holly absolutely dominating here to the tune of about 22 points over Kelly Greenhoe, but a close battle starting to develop there for third place. Greenhoe and Kings tied on points right now, with Mark Kalin only 8 points back from them. David Van Roy is in a little bit of an island unto himself. Michael Chase about 9 points away from him, with Kevin Berquist around 10 away there as well. Don't sleep on Ian Cabana or Patrick Cowgill. They certainly have enough speed to be able to move their way up the order as well. And Charles Sumner there will round out your top 10 in the driver's standings. Now, when we take a look here at the team standings, it is Car Ramrada back leading the way, but that mini horsepower team of Kings and Kelly Greenhoe, certainly a force to be reckoned with. They were talking last week that they really want to try to take that team's championship away from Car Ramrada back. Crikey Esports sits down in third, followed by Unlimited Slip, SRT Esports, and YS Motorsports rounds out your 6 entries there into the team's championship. Now, we're about 5 minutes into qualifying here, but before we get to that, we'd like to run through our sponsor role and thank VCO, the virtual competition organization, without which none of our Precision Racing League presentations would be possible. We also want to thank Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get an additional 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Also want to thank RaceLab Apps. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Also, the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. And finally, we'd like to thank Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. All right, as we now turn our eyes here over to qualifying, about 6 minutes down as they run, and currently it's Kelly Greenhoe at the top of the charts, but there's not a whole lot separating this field. Only about 0.2 of a second separating the top 5, as now it's Ryan Kings that bumps his way up there. A team mini horsepower 1-2. That's got to be a quick early sign here for the boys in blue and orange.
And that's kind of been the story of qualifying all season here. These tiny little margins and qualifying sessions dominated by the draft, by whether or not you can get some help from a teammate, from another driver on some of these longer straights. Bradley Holly here on your screen. He's going through the twistiest section of the track right now, that sort of squared off, cut off section where you join the club layout and then rejoin the big layout here. But then we have a long front straight. It's not the longest front straight in the world, but you can still get some help from a draft, from a teammate. Bradley Holly's getting no help, and he's 0.3 off the pace right now, so I don't know how much he'll be able to improve. But Kings and Greenhoe, those two teammates, they've been masters of working together in qualifying, and at least for now, still 13 minutes to go, but they're still working out pretty good.
Yes, they are, as Holly brings his way down through the hairpin right now, working through the Fangio chicane. He'll get himself up to speed, crossing over what is actually the start-finish line there, I believe, unless I'm crazy. It is a little bit of a strange and unique layout as they run, but Holly, with that time, going to be able to put in a time good enough for P2, and that'll move him about 1/10 of a second off of your current leader, Ryan Kings. Here's Kelly Greenhoe as he works his way around the circuit, and he didn't like that lap. He's going to pull off to the side.
Kelly Greenhoe last week got his first pole ever in this series, in any PRL series, so he's going to want to follow up on that little record, and he's pretty close. He only needs another 1/10 to catch up to Ryan Kings, and he had so much speed last week. He arguably should have won the race last week if Mark Kalin didn't get into him at the end of the race and gift the win to Bradley Holly a little bit. So Kelly is really looking to prove something this week. He knows he's not out of championship contention. There's still 4 rounds to go, but Bradley Holly has both seemed to have all the luck in the world and all the carefulness in the world to actually be able to finish all these races ahead, when it seems like drivers like Kings and Greenhoe and even Kalin have had more speed. They've just made more mistakes or gotten into each other.
Yes, they have, as we ride on board with Michael Chase right now, who's continuing a good run of qualifying we've seen over the past couple of rounds there for the 34. Currently in third place, just a hair under 0.2 of a second off of the best time we've seen put down. There we see him, though, working on to one of those little mini straightaways that you talked about there, Joey, flicking the car back and forth. A big heaping of a little bit of oversteer he had to correct. He's now going to bring his way through the left-hander onto Gurney Bend right now on what would be really the second straightaway here on the traditional layout, but is now, well, let's go ahead and call it the back straight here as it leads down into the hairpin and right up to the start-finish line.
And the hairpin, that's probably going to be your best passing opportunity in this whole track. The second half of the track, it's very twisty. There's a few braking zones, but turn one, or I guess the final corner in this layout of the track, that's where you really want to make your move. And then the start-finish line comes up right about here. We go past the Fangio chicane, and then I think the start-finish line is just before the braking zone, technically. So when you're qualifying, yeah, it's right after. So there's no real advantage to throwing away a second lap. You do get your braking done well after the start-finish line, but that's a very interesting place for a start-finish line to be, and I wonder if we might see some shenanigans on the final lap as some guys try and make up a move and maybe get a draft to the line there because it's so far down the straight.
Yeah, we certainly could. That's going to be something to keep an eye on. One driver, though, that has caught my eye is David Van Rooyen. Remember the number 4 driver? He's been on an even better run in qualifying, capturing pole last time out, only to see himself get demoted down through the field a little bit. Van Rooyen, the number 4, has been very electric, and there is an improved lap for him. He's going to find himself up into P4 right now, about, let's call it just under 0.2 of a second off. Michael Chase, again, in the 34. He's going to have to piece his way through a little bit of traffic. That's the number 15, Garrett Cottingham, right in front of him, a newcomer here into the series tonight.
And Garrett kind of gets out of the way there. Well done for him. He sees a few drivers who are faster than him, and he's just going to get out of the way. Remember last week, Garrett Cottingham, he joined us with literally 0 seconds of practice. He joined with about 5 seconds left on the grid, and he went into the race without any practice, any qualifying. So this will be his first real weekend here in the PRL MX-5 series. His first weekend of full practice, full qualifying, and yeah, he's just going to get out of the way of the leaders. And Michael Chase will have clean track here, but I wonder if his lap might have been already ruined by a little bit of traffic, and he's got more traffic up ahead. That's one of the YS Motorsports drivers. I don't know who that is, but probably going to hold up Michael Chase, whichever one it is.
Yes, he will. And as I look on my screen, I believe that is Andrew Sharp directly up ahead of him that he's going to have to deal with. Kevin Berquist right up the road from him as well. So here you can see coming through Gurney Bend. Now this is going to help him out here a little bit. He is going to get a nice heaping of that draft, moves to the outside. He's going to have to hope that Sharp stays out of the way. But it looks like exactly that's what the number 24 did. Got out of the way, allowed for Michael Chase to get on through. Chase not as tight down to that apex as you really like going through the hairpin, but he still may be able to salvage a little bit of time here. It did look like he was green, setting a personal best through the first sector. Let's see here as he works his way up through the Fangio chicane and gets ready to cross over the start-finish line. That is going to be an improvement for Michael Chase. He's up into P4.
I think that might have been as high as P2, but we saw where all that speed was lost. Just outbraked himself into the hairpin, and it was just so agonizing to see him crawl to a stop and lose all that momentum he built up. But he knows he has speed. He's going to go out for another lap, and I'm sure he'll be able to improve a little bit more because he clearly had more speed in that car. Bradley Holly's going to get a little bit of speed from the two mini horsepower teammates up ahead if one of them doesn't drive through the grass, but well done by whichever one that is. Greenhoe and Kings both actually end up getting out of the way. They're not going to give any free draft to their biggest rival, Bradley Holly. He's going to have to deal with the rest of the lap on his own. He was very tidy there through what is the second to last corner on this layout. So this could be a pretty solid lap for Bradley Holly. I don't know if it's a full 10th improvement to beat Ryan Kings to pole, but if he can get it slowed down here in the hairpin, Michael Chase wasn't able to. It's a little bit dicey for Holly, but he's way better through the hairpin, way onto the apex. That was a great run. See if he can find a full 10th.
Yes, indeed. Let's see if he can. He did set a personal best through the third sector on the last lap as Holly's going to get ready to cross over the start-finish line here, and it does doesn't look like that's going to be an improvement of 1:13.371. So he is going to stay in second as of right now. Here's Andrew Sharp there. We talked about him a little bit earlier, doing sort of the gentlemanly thing of getting out of the way, and that's exactly what he has happened to him there with David Van Roy, who was able to get out of the way. But the number 24 now going to be on a little bit of a hot lap here. Dives it down into the right-hander. Let's see if he can get on the loud pedal and get this car where it needs to be.
This is the trickiest corner on the track. We've seen so many drivers just throw it off into the dust. Looks cleaner for Andrew Sharp, but he killed a lot of his speed. That's such a tricky corner. You want to carry as much speed as possible, but if you do, you lose it all in the second half of the corner and you kill your run down the straight. And Andrew Sharp is going to abort this lap entirely. He's going to let Holly by. I think it'll let David Van Roy by. No, Van Roy doesn't elect to pass him. He's going to stay in line. This will be a throwaway lap for Andrew Sharp, but he's got 5 minutes 40 to continue to improve. I think Malcolm Foster and Charles Sumner might be in touching distance.
They may be as well. You also saw on the back of the picture there David Van Roy getting it a little bit wrong going through the hairpin turn, as that will throw his lap off undoubtedly. Michael Chase, David Van Roy both on out laps there, so they're going to be out. Whoa, Michael Chase getting a little bit squirrely. I saw on my monitor as Kelly Greenhoe here continues to work his way around in the number 12 right now. He's going to be picking up a little bit of the draft from his teammate Ryan Kings up in front of him, as Kings kicked up a little bit of dirt there as they entered into the start of Gurney Bend.
And this is very well timed, but it's got to be very well timed into the hairpin. Kings has to make sure he doesn't hold up Greenhoe. Greenhoe has to make sure he doesn't get into the back of Kings, but through the hairpin, this looks perfect to me. Kelly's going to get a good run. Kings is going to be just close enough for Kelly to get the draft down to the line here. And if Kelly's been clean and tidy through the rest of the lap, this could be a very, very strong lap. Potentially a run to pole for Kelly Greenhoe. He's getting the full effect of the draft down the straight here, but he can't improve at all. 7/10 down. So that was just a little bit of a scruffy lap by Kelly, but he's going to get another shot, and he's going to get more help from his teammate with the draft here. Hopefully it works out a little bit better this time for him.
Yes, he does, as they work their way through Cunningham and Collier. We jump back to take a look here at Bradley Holly as he continues to drive around here a little bit solo. Mark Kalin, his teammate, well down the order into 7th, is there with that lap. Bradley Holly jumps his way up into the order with a 1:13.139. That'll put him a 10th ahead of Ryan Kings.
Holly says, you know what, I don't need any help. Kings and Greenhoe, you guys can do whatever you want. You can fight over the positions, but I am going to beat you to pole by a full 10th or 2/10. And Kelly Greenhoe there, you saw him make a mistake. He threw it off the road. That's an instant point, and the lap was already killed. So he's going to bring it back to pit lane. I imagine he'll go out and do another run because there might still be 2/10 in the tank for him. But David Van Roy, he's going to have the draft here from Andrew Sharp if he doesn't catch him too early. This is, again, the toughest corner on the track. Sharp has struggled a little bit through here. Van Roy's catching him. He's got to make sure he doesn't catch him too early. And is he backing off here? No, I thought he was because he was to the inside of the track, but I was just optically illusioned by one of the Crikey Esports drivers going slow on the outside. Van Roy has caught Andrew Sharp, but he hasn't caught him in the braking zone. But that's not good for Van Roy. He just got held up there, and the run to the line is also going to be diminished by the fact that Andrew Sharp is right ahead of him. I don't think this will be an improvement from Van Roy, but he was good enough in the first part of the lap. Getting held up like this won't hurt him too bad, and he's backing off. It's the lap over.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Joey. He did lose a little bit of time, but we've got to be a little bit on the watch out there. Kelly Greenhoe on an out lap right now, but he did go purple on the last lap around in the first sector, so he's clearly got some more speed behind that number 12. Derek Putnam, though, is going to be another one hoping to move his way forward. The number 79, currently in 10th place. He's getting a nice little draft off of the 34 directly up ahead of him. That is going to be Michael Chase. Putnam, one of the newer faces here in the series, so good to see him returning back again. Michael Chase, though, good line there through the sweep of Collier Curve. Gonna dive it down into the right-hander of Tower. The quick little blast here that is the Flying Fortress straight before he has to get on the binders again and bring it through Rabbit Bend. And then this will bring it back onto what we traditionally think of as the first sector here at Sebring, when in reality for this race, it's going to be the third sector.
Chase going to try and improve here all on his lonesome. Derek Putnam struggling to stick with Michael Chase in the back. They've got about a half-tenth of pace difference here. So Putnam just trying to pick up the pieces, run his own lap here, run his own race. And it looks like he's going to back off. He's going to bring it down pit lane, maybe go for for one more lap, he will be able to. I don't know if he'll be able to improve on just the second lap out of the pits, but might as well go out and try. Michael Chase here look a little bit scruffy on the exit of the hairpin, but it's the run to the line. He's got no help. It's all down to Michael Chase. It's all down to the heaviest pedal possible. It looks good, but is it good enough to beat a 1:13.4? No, he's still about half a second off.
Yeah, looks like they were 1:13.8, the best that he could do. Let's see if David Van Roy's got anything else. Oh, that's going to be an off track there, unfortunately, for the number 4, going a little bit wide on the exit of the corner. Now it's going to come down to Kevin Bergquist. Let's see what the 64 has got. Is he going to be able to move his way up from a 8th place position? No, he is going to stay stationary with a time of 1:13.746. Malcolm Foster now, the one that we are going to focus on. Foster currently back down in 12th right now. He's going to be trailing behind the number 15 of Garrett Cottingham as they drive under the Corvette Bridge there through the Gurney Bend. This is where that draft is going to come into a helping hand for Malcolm Foster. Cottingham looks like he's going to get out of the way. That is perfect sportsmanship there for Garrett. And let's see if the Crikey Esports driver is able to get it gathered up back under him. I think he went a little bit wide there on the exit of the hairpin.
Quite wide for Malcolm Foster, and unfortunately for him, that's going to kill his run here down the front straight. It was looking like a good lap. He was looking like he was probably going to improve on a 1:14.4, but no, his run was just killed. And again, it's another lap that's just 0.4 slower than the best lap. It's been a struggle to improve for just about everybody except for Bradley Holly. Ryan Kings might be, he's going to be one of the last cars on track to finish a lap. This is his last lap. Time is run out. So this is the one that counts. Can Ryan Kings find that 1/10 all on his own? Holly did a 1:13.1 with no draft, so it's very possible. But Kings has to nail this hairpin here, and this has been the toughest corner on the track for every driver so far. And that looked okay. Didn't look especially incredible, but we'll see what the time says.
We will indeed here as King's gonna make the run to the line down this sweeping straightaway, and it looks like he's actually gonna be coming down pit lane. So King says nope, he is not gonna be able to improve. Still a couple of drivers out on track right now. Malcolm Foster, it looks like, as well as Garrett Cottingham out there. Michael Chase hoping to improve from 4th, as well as Ian Cabana there behind him. I'm not seeing any green sectors, as indeed Michael Chase is gonna pull off to the outside, not wanting to go for it. Let's see if the 6th place Cabana has anything. Cottingham, also one of the drivers that pulled off to the outside. It's going to be the 2 Crikey Esports drivers now of Cabana and Foster that are going to be the last 2 on the circuit. Does Cabana improve? No, he does not. Neither does Foster, and that's going to wrap us up.
Just a little bit anticlimactic at the end there, but fastest driver got pole. Bradley Holly. That's an incredible performance, and when the guy who's won 5 races this season, who hasn't been the fastest in qualifying, is starting on pole, that's pretty scary for the rest of the field.
Yeah, it is, especially the circuit when the draft isn't going to be necessarily as powerful as it was, say, last time out in the Hungaro ring. But it is going to be that 184, the car Ryan Rodeback driver lining up in pole position behind him. It's going to be 2 mini horsepower drivers in the form of Ryan Kings and Kelly Greenhoe. Michael Chase will line up 4th to the outside of row 2, and behind him it'll be David Van Roy and Ian Cabana carrying the flag for Crikey Esports. Mark Kalin, a little bit off the pace, a little bit surprising to see him that far back in the field. Kevin Bergquist is going to flank him in 8th. Patrick Cowgill lines up in 9th, followed by Derek Putnam. Charles Sumner and Malcolm Foster make up the top 12. And then in 13th, it's going to be Andrew Sharp, and Garrett Cottingham rounds out the back of the grid. Well, Joey, it's not going to be a big run to the line here. As we talked about, not a whole lot of space before you've got to get onto the binders here. I think that's going to make things a little bit interesting. But important to note here, as it is in any PRL series, the incident counts. 13 incidents will get you a drive-through penalty. 17 incidents will get you disqualified. And we are in store for a 35-minute race out there with a pretty much guaranteed pit stop due to fuel limitations. Waiting for a couple of drivers to line their way up onto the grid. Derek Putnam joins in the back there, as does Charles Sumner and David Van Roy, as all cars are now to the grid, and we look to the lights, getting ready to go racing here at Sebring. 4, 5, and there go the lights. We are racing in Sebring. It's a pretty good start there from Ryan Kings, who looks like he's going to be able to get a little bit of a move on Bradley Holly, or at least challenge him behind them. Kelly Greenhoe tries to be able to get a few things. Kings backs takes off, looks for the over-under on Holly there as they work their way up through Cunningham and down through Collier Curve. It's going to be a two-way fight. Kings not letting this die out as they now get into the braking zone for the tower turn, and that's going to be Ryan Kings up into the lead.
What a very interesting start for Ryan Kings. It's almost impossible to go around the outside in turn one. He knew that. He pulled off a masterful switchback, and Bradley Holly just falls by the wayside. Took a little bit of a dip into the grass as well. So that's probably going to be his first incident point of the day already. Gonna have to be very careful about those, but just a powerful restart for Ryan Kings, and that's exactly what he needed to do. Get ahead of Bradley Holly, but Holly's coming back. This lead is not Ryan Kings's to keep. Holly's clearly got speed, and Kings is going to have to do the defense of his life here to keep Holly behind. Needs heavy braking here into the hairpin, but Holly looks to be a little bit later. The outside just doesn't really work through the hairpin, though, in these cars. Or does it? Is he about to figure this out? No, he's going to have to back out. They're still going to be side by side, but Kings at least has the advantage for now.
Yes, he does, and crucially, Kings is going to have the preferred braking line as they go down into Cunningham, which is turn one. Crossing over the start-finish line here, it is Bradley Holly trying to hold on to a little bit of a fight here. It looks like Holly's able to carry more speed there around the outside of the right-hander, and indeed, that's going to be Holly up back into the lead of the race, and so now Kings and Greenhoe are going to have to follow behind, but they're starting to form a little bit of a breakaway. Michael Chase not able to keep up with these three in their frenetic pace.
Kings needs to stick with Bradley Holly here. This is so important for the championship right now. It's so distant at the moment, and they need to make up points wherever they can. Kings and Greenhoe and Kalen all do. Mark Kalen hasn't had the best start. He's back to 6th right now. I think he actually just let David Van Roy by. And then behind them here, the battle for the last spot in the top 10. Cowgill, Derek Putnam, Sumner, Foster. It's early on in the race. It's pretty frenetic. And I don't think we're going to see the sort of draft trains we've been seeing in the past couple weeks. Everybody wants track position here.
Yeah, they certainly do, but I'll tell you what, everybody's staying pretty close together now that we see them get on to through Gurney Bend. Andrew Sharp, they're going to be in a little bit of a battle with Garrett Cottingham, as it looks like Cottingham's able to move his way up ahead, but that battle may not be resolved yet. Yes, it is. Sharp's got to pull back off, and he's going to stick in behind. That is the battle for last place position right now. As there, it doesn't look like it's over. Sharp wants a little bit of payback here as they work their way down the pit straightaway. Is Sharp going to be able to outbrake him? Going down into Cunningham. Ooh, a little bit of contact, and that's Sharp around, and Cottingham with nowhere to go.
I think Sharp just outbraked himself a little bit there. Nothing Garrett Cottingham could have done there. Under braking, Andrew Sharp just seemed a little bit floaty, a little bit boaty. The Miata just did not look very comfortable, and that's unfortunate. That was a good little battle going on there, but unfortunately we have had a wreck for last place. They're both going to keep on rolling, though. Such unfortunate stuff at the back of the field, but this train up front keeps on rolling. Kings is only able to close up to about half a tenth to Bradley Holly, but that's better than completely losing him, and that's all he can really do right now unless Holly makes another mistake like he did in the initial start.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's going to be any action there, but there is going to be a big send in behind from David Van Roy. Van Roy and Chase going to be side by side. Renmora gives him just enough space there on the inside coming up through the Fangio chicane, and that is going to be the number 4 up into position. But watch out here for Mark Kalen, who's looking to pick up some of the pieces there in the number 62. He works his way to what will be the inside of Michael Chase as they dive onto the binders for Cunningham. Down into the corner. That's going to be Kalen trying to force the 34 a little bit wide, but it's going to be Kalen that loses out just a little bit. He tries to fight back there, looking this way, looking that way, but Chase says no thank you and holds on to that position.
Kalen really ringing out the back of that Miata. He's throwing this thing around, but it just doesn't seem like he has the pace that he's had on some other weeks. Kalen always has an advantage under braking. That's what I tend to notice here, but there's a lot of heavy braking zones here, and Kalen just seems to be struggling more than some other weeks. He's hopping the curbs everywhere. It's a huge slide for Mark Kalen. He seems kind of uncomfortable right now. He's kind of lost the rhythm just a little bit. He hit just about every curb on the track on that last lap. And he's got to find a way to get the rhythm back here because we don't want to see him spin out and end his championship completely.
No, he has really got to keep it together. Really, I think you put the nail on the head there of absolutely chucking the car into the corner. I'd even make an argument that he's over-driving the car at this point, and he's got to look out of his rear-view mirror because that's Ian Cabana right behind him in the 774 who looks particularly hungry, wanting to move his way up forwards for Crikey Esports. Now as they come onto the pit straight right now and dive into the corner of the right-hander there for Cunningham, it looks like everybody's going to be in single file, although David Van Roy just set the fastest lap of the race last time out.
And Van Roy is catching this 3-car battle for the lead. He's going to turn it into a 4-car battle for the lead. And Kings also has closed up to the back of Bradley Holly. So while he doesn't seem to have the pace to pass him, what have we seen these mini horsepower Gulf liveried Miatas do just about every single week? They've pulled some pit strategy. They've pulled some alternate pit strategy. Well, they've been behind in the race. They've done something in the pits. They've managed to put less fuel in the car. They've saved more fuel in the first stint of the race, and then they find a way to jump Bradley Holly. So once the pit stops come around, probably in like 12 minutes or so from now, if Kings can't make the move on track, you can never count out these two, Kings and Greenhill, making a move in the pits.
Yeah, that's certainly true. We've seen them be very, very aggressive coming onto the pits early, and we saw a little bit of a turn in there as they went down into the corner. Kings maybe thinking a little bit about an attack if he could, but didn't look like he wanted to go for it there necessarily, so that's going to turn him around. Kings again taking a little bit of a look down into Cunningham, but he's going to have to stay in line. He does have that rear gunner in the form of Kelly Greeno to be able to hold behind him, and so he doesn't have to worry about an attack from Van Roy quite yet.
Kings doesn't seem too content to run in second here. If they are planning any sort of strategy, Kings does not seem to be following because he wants to make this move. He wants this track position, and most importantly, he wants this lead. But he needs to be careful, though, because we've seen a few times this season, not to diss Ryan Kings, but he's made mistakes from strong positions like this. I'm sure he'd say exactly the same thing. And that's why his championship has kind of separated from Bradley Holly, who's been essentially mistake-free, other than the few times he's made contact with his teammate Mark Kalin. And now they're actually going to switch. Greenhill's going to get by Kings here. I think this might be deliberate. Ryan King's probably thinking, I can't really attack Holly right now. I can't make the move. Let's let my teammate go ahead, try and make an attack on Holly, and maybe we can both go through it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and I think that may have been precipitated by coming out of Rabbit Bend. It looked a little bit like Kelly Greenhill got a little bit crossed up, and I wonder if there was some communication there between the two mini horsepower drivers to let each other on by. That was a little bit of a look there for Ryan Kings, but that's going to send him offline as they come down now through the sweepers here of Collier, and he is really having to put up a quite stout defense because David Van Roy, remember, who started in 5th up into 4th, he looks like he wants to be able to move himself up one more position. He is all over the back now of the 43 of Ryan Kings.
And David Van Roy's another driver who wants to make up for lost time. Last week he started on the front row. He got taken out on lap 1. It ruined his chances for the victory. He really wants a win this season. He's been so fast. He's just been so misfortunate in some of these races. He's got 3 cars to pass if he wants to win this race, but he's getting very, very aggressive here. He wants to pass Ryan Kings, and he might especially want to pass Ryan Kings because who hit him on lap 1? Who took him out of a chance for the win last week at the Hungaroring? It was Ryan Kings. So there might be a little bit more incentive there.
Derek Putnam from the back of the field sending a big look down to the inside there of Patrick Cowgill, almost coming together there between him and the 31 for SRT Esports, but it does look like that Putnam in the 71 is going to be able to pull ahead here, but I think Cowgill is going to have a little something to say about it as they come down into the corner. Looking to see here is that's going to be Cowgill trying to move on the outside. He's not going to be able to get it done. Thinks about the crossover, but Putnam too far ahead. He is going to be able to hold on to that spot.
Mark Kalin also lost another spot to Ian Cabana up ahead. You saw that in the background of your shot a few laps ago. He just completely overcooked it again into the hairpin, and Ian Cabana got by, and now he's got to look in his mirrors. Derek Putnam, very, very hungry. He's been making moves, and he wants to continue his drive forward. And again, Kalin extremely far off the road. We compliment his braking skills every week. He might just be going a little bit too far this week. He's very uncomfortable on the brakes, it seems, and he's just overcooking it on every corner here. he might just be pushing a little bit too hard. He can see that his teammate and championship rival is 6 spots ahead of him with 3 weeks left in the championship. That might be an unattainable gap or an unclosable gap, and he's throwing everything at the table here to try and close that gap down, and none of it's really working.
No, it's not, but it did look like Derek Putnam there was the one to get it a little bit wrong, coming down into the hairpin, just overcooking it ever so slightly. But now Kalen has it a little bit back up underneath him. He's going to put some pressure onto the back of Ian Cabana as they work their way down the pit straight, down into the braking zone for Cunningham, into that right-hander, trying to see if he's able to get it. Kalen looking like he had a better line there through the corner, going to carry a little bit more speed through Collier. Now down to the right-hander of the tower turn. He's going to have a half-hearted look down to the inside. Is that going to set him off on a bad line? He's sideways, but he's going to keep it up there. Not able to get the crossover, though, going into Rabbit Bend.
Ian Cabana, not scared by the peak by Mark Kalen, keeps it on the normal line and keeps it going forward. So well done, Ian Cabana. This is great defense. Kalen still throwing everything at him. He's wringing the neck of that Miata still, and he is just not able to make the move. Ian Cabana has the widest Miata in the world right now, and Kalen is having an extremely tough time getting by. He's going to get a run here, but smartly, Ian Cabana defends a little bit to the inside. Now Derek Putnam's going to try and take a shot at Kalen. Kalen blocks, but Putnam's going for it anyway.
Yes, he does, and Kalen looked like he thought better of that block coming back to the racing line, and that really allowed for Putnam to be able to get a nose into that corner, but he's not quite able to seal the deal, and so he still has a little bit more to try to work out here. He's going to close in behind Mark Kalen now down the pit straightaway to see if he's able to get anything. There comes the poke out from Putnam down into Cunningham. Is he laden up on the brakes? No, he's not. Kalen's going to have to hold it out there a little bit, and they continue to run single file through Collier.
And this is exactly what Ian Cabana wants. He wants Mark Kalen off his back. He's looking at that beautiful purple car, that toasted plum of Derek Putnam. He's saying, please keep fighting with Mark Kalen. Keep him behind me. I want to run away with 6th place here. I want to have a little bit more lonely of a race and maybe even catch Michael Chase for the top 5. So this is perfect for Ian Cabana right now, and it's very aggressive for Derek Putnam now, who is looking like a very, very solid performer right now in this race. He's always driven through the field. He's only been with us for, 2-3 weeks now? And every single week, he's the guy who's always making moves in this part of the field. And he's going to get to the outside of Kalen here. It's hard to outbrake Mark Kalen on the outside, but if Kalen makes a mistake, it'll be easy bidding.
Sends it there to the outside. Kalen gets a little bit sideways. Is Putnam going to be able to carry the momentum? No, it doesn't look like it. Kalen shuts the door coming out of the Fangio chicane, but now Putnam's got a little bit more momentum on the pit straightaway. We saw him try to send this move down into Cunningham last time, but he wasn't quite up alongside. This time looks like he's got a little bit more momentum. Chucks the car into the corner there, into the right-hander. Kalen tries to carry speed around the outside. Gets very, very aggressive there with the curbing. Putnam has to give it up the ghost a little bit, and here comes Patrick Cowgill fighting back on Derek Putnam as Putnam takes a little bit of a look going down into the tower turn. Kalen again really hopping the curves there. Putnam running a little bit wide.
I don't know how Mark Kalen hung on to that position. That was incredible around the outside to just completely nullify the move Derek Putnam tried to make. But Putnam's not going anywhere. Ian Cabana is. He's continuing to pull away as these guys fight. But Derek Putnam's not done. That was a great attempt at a move. Didn't quite work out. But he clearly has the speed over Mark Kalen right now. Kalen's been more in control of the vehicle, it seems. He's gotten it back under control. He's gotten back in the rhythm. But Derek Putnam is on another level right now in this little pack, and I think it's only a matter of time until he puts another attack on Mark Kalen, or he won't need to, because Mark Kalen throws it off the road and he's going to fall to 10th.
Yes, he will, and so that's going to drop that number 64 driver as we've got. It looks like that early pit stop that you predicted, Joey, Kelly Greenhoe, coming down pit lane here with about 20 minutes left to go in the race, doing what he has done pretty much every time this season and opting for a very alternate pit strategy.
And that's an interesting one, because that's early, which would make you assume that Kelly might be putting in a little bit extra fuel compared to a driver who comes in later in the race. So I think it's just Kelly trying to get out of traffic. Bradley Holly probably holding him up just a little bit, which is kind of surprising to say considering Brad is the race leader. But Kelly's going to get out of traffic. He's going to come out about 8 seconds behind Malcolm Foster in completely clean track. And this is an interesting move for Kelly Greenhoe. Not able to make the move on track. Might as well try and go for an undercut here. if I'm Bradley Holly, I'm probably coming in right now and I'm letting Ryan Kings and David Van Roy fight each other for what will become the lead and slow each other down. But we'll see. Does he just wait a little bit longer? Is he just going to hope that Kings and Van Roy fight each other for second instead of the lead? If he's hoping for that, he's certainly getting it, because David Van Roy really wants the second place right now.
Yes, he does. There's a fire off on the radio. Ryan King's going to come down pit lane, so both mini horsepower drivers opting for the undercut strategy here. I can also tell you that Mark Kalin came down pit lane there on lap 11, so plenty of alternating strategies going on. But I've got to say, I think this is a blessing in disguise. Oh, that's the 43 of Ryan King's missing his pit box, has to reverse there. That's going to cost him valuable time on the track.
It was a good recovery. He didn't completely kill the pit stop there, but that's going to be a critical full second potentially. Look at his pit stop time. The clock ticks 16.9. Kelly Greenhoe only spent 16.1 in the box, and Kelly also actually made his pit stall without overcooking it. So that's going to be disastrous for Ryan Kings. He's going to lose almost 2 full seconds to his teammate Kelly, and that might put him completely out of contention for the win. But look at this Derek Putnam. I thought Ian Cabana was running away with that position. Putnam's going to get by him, and Cowgill is as well. What happened to Cabana?
Cabana just made a little bit of an error there coming through Rabbit Bend, it would appear, and that was enough to chuck him off on the circuit. Joey, you talked about how tricky that portion of the track is, what is traditionally turns 1 and 2 and 3 there on the Sebring layout. As there it was Cowgill starting to get a little bit aggressive as the other two leaders, Holly and Van Roy, both diving down pit lane trying to cover off the mini horsepower team.
This is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets interesting every week. Putnam's going to come in. Cabana's going to come in. I imagine Bergquist is going to come in as well. Yeah, literally everybody's going to come in except for Patrick Cowgill, who's going to stay out for one more lap. Get a lap led on the board. Why not? Can't hurt. But critical thing. Watch the side of your screen. Watch the ticker. Bradley Holly, the clock ticks down. What's it going to be in the pit stall? 16 seconds. So about the same as Kelly Greenhoe. Now we just wait and see where they're going to meet on track.
Yes, we will, as we wait here for all of this to circulate itself out. And it looks like David Van Roy's been able to get the jump over Kelly Greenhoe, but they're going to find themselves about 2 to 3 seconds behind who will be the presumptive leader of the race in the form of Bradley Holly. Kelly Greenhoe doesn't want to wait around, though, chucks it down to the inside there of the tower turn, down through Rabbit. And now that's going to be Van Roy able to get a little bit of the fight back there through the Gurney Bend, as it's going to be Van Roy up into P2.
And that is just incredible. The fact that Bradley Holly has pulled a 3.5 second lead over the course of that pit cycle. He spent 27 seconds in the pit lane. David Van Roy spent 29. Kelly Greenhoe 28.6. Ryan King's 30. So I don't know if they all made mistakes or something. I didn't see Kelly Greenhoe overcook his pit stall. I didn't see David Van Roy make any mistakes. But somehow Bradley Holly has spent exactly the same amount of time in his pit stall and yet spent 2 seconds less time in pit lane as a whole. So Bradley Holly clearly has mastered something on the pit lane of the Sebring Club layout, because that is just an incredible gap, and that might be unclosable, especially if these guys are all going to continue fighting with each other for the next 17 minutes.
Well, it looks like there that the mini horsepower team not intending to fight with each other, as it looked like a little bit of formation flying there out of Ryan Kings and Kelly Greenhoe, as Greenhoe let Ryan Kings back on by. Remember, we saw them trade positions earlier on in the race, thinking maybe that Kelly was going to have a better chance to be able to get up ahead on to Bradley Holly. But here, as we can see, Van Roy got on the brakes a little bit early there for Ryan Kings, I think, and slowed down that momentum, but Kings able to carry a little bit better speed there, and now as they fly through Gurney Bend, the draft coming into play a little bit, Kings starts to look at the outside, brings the car back to the inside. It's going to be a straight drag race now down into the hairpin. Who is going to be the latest of the late breakers going down into the corner? It looks like Kings has got a nose ahead, tries to force Van Roy a little bit off wide. Kelly Greenhoe tries to follow on through.
It's almost like an oval turn at the hairpin, the outside line. It somehow works really, really well. And David Van Roy, I thought he was just about throwing it off the road there, and he has recovered masterfully down this front straight here. Oh, but that is very, very wide. That's way too wide. He was almost on the grass, and that's a mistake from David Van Roy. That's so unfortunate. He did such a good job of fighting back there down the front straight, and he just clips the grass a little bit, and that's going to let the mini horsepower teammates through. Can they do anything to close down this 3.5 second gap now?
Well, I can tell you, despite all of that battling, that's not going to help them at all, though, as that was Kelly Greenhoe getting off into the dirt there. Despite all of the battling there, they were able to gain about a half a second on your leader of Bradley Holly, so that's certainly going to help them out a little bit and certainly boost their chances.
I don't know what happened to Bradley Holly on the previous lap, because that was a slow lap, and that's not what we normally expect from Bradley Holly. That's not what he's been doing over the course of this race. He's not been running in the 15.2s as he was on that previous lap. But let's see. Let's compare. But there's a mistake again. Ryan King's huge mistake into the hairpin under braking, and he lets Greenhoe and Van Roy through.
Yes, he does, and Kelly Greenhoe is going to be a little bit happy that he's got some clear and shining light up ahead of him to try to run down Bradley Holly, but that's going to slow him down a little bit as he had to jump onto the binders. Van Roy now the meat here in the mini horsepower sandwich as he tries to get himself around. That's going to be a little bit of a run over the line there for Ryan Kings. He looks like he is absolutely hustling that car around here, trying to see if there's anything to be had. Holly was able to grow the gap to about 0.7 of a second on that last lap, so that's going to help him, although I can tell you that Kelly Greenhoe was able to take 0.4 out of that gap just in the first sector alone.
And Bradley Holly did a far more representative lap the last time around. He did a 14.2, improved by a full second, and that's more what we expect from Bradley Holly. He was on pole. He's been completely dominant through the entirety of this race, and a 14.2 is what we expect from him. I think he might have run into lap traffic. He might have fallen behind Garrett Cottingham for a little bit, and that might have been what lost him the full second. But you can see the gap on your screen. That is just huge. 3.5 seconds. It stayed there, even with getting held up just a little bit. Kings is pushing a little bit too hard out back, and this gap is only going to grow because, like I said, Van Roy is not content to hang out in third. He wants the best position possible. He wants second here. He peaks to the inside of Kelly Greenhoe, but still too far back. But the chase is on here. The aggression is on. Unfortunately, it's a lot of aggression for what isn't going to be the win unless Holly makes a big mistake.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. The gap holding at about 3.4 seconds right now. I can also tell you that Charles Sumner has opted to come down pit lane as of right now. So that will be only one driver up in front of this quartet that runs for the lead of the race. You know what, though, Joey? I got to tell you, I'm looking at these sector times, and Greenhoe is continually taking time out of Bradley Holly despite this attack here from David Van Roy. In the second sector, he was able to take 0.3 of a second out. Let's see here as they cross over the second sector mark if Greenhoe was able to keep that up. By the tracking that I'm getting, I think he was. Here comes Ryan King sending a move down to the inside of David Van Roy, and that's going to be a big one, but Van Roy able to carry more momentum around the outside of the hairpin. Is he going to be able to keep Kings at bay for now? Yes, he is. By the way, they're through sector 2, 0.5 of a second taken out of that gap by Kelly Greenhoe.
This is bizarre, and this is completely proving me wrong, and I don't understand why. I don't understand where this speed has come from Kelly Greenhoe. Is Holly saving fuel or something? Is he underfueled the car somehow? I don't understand how he could do that because he spent the same amount of time in his pit stall as Greenhoe and Van Roy and Kings did. So I'm kind of dumbfounded at the pace difference here. How has Kelly Greenhoe found all this speed? How has David Van Roy found all this speed? How has Ryan Kings found all this speed? And how are they all fighting with each other and still catching Bradley Holly? This is a quandary. This series is it's like a quantum physics experiment. Every single week, something new happens that we can't explain. And yeah, I can't explain it. I don't know what's happening, but they are catching Bradley Holly. David Van Roy might just have to hold back here because if he goes for the move on Kelly Greenhoe, that's going to kill all the progress that I've complimented them for. Now, this is just an absolutely bizarre development, and you would not expect this from Bradley Holly as the leader.
And Van Roy thought about a little bit of a move down there into the hairpin, but Kelly Greenhoe didn't look like he was dissuaded at all, just kept on his line, able to break a little bit later and keep the number 4 at bay. So if Van Roy has any intention of sitting back and waiting for that gap to close, he's clearly not showing it here. They cross over the start-finish line, and it does look like there that on that last lap, the gap came down, but not by nearly as much, only about 0.04 of a second. I can tell you right there that a little further back in the field, Ian Cabana able to send a move on Kevin Berquist. That's going to promote Cabana up into 7th, and because those are 2 Crikey Esports drivers, I do think that may have been a little bit of formation flying.
I think that looked fairly easy for Cabana to get ahead of Bergquist. Cabana's been the fastest of the Crikey Esports drivers so far tonight, so that's no surprise. Let him loose, let him go attack Michael Chase, see if he can make up for some of the time he lost when they were fighting earlier. Kings and Van Roy up ahead. I just saw them get side by side. They've lost a lot of time, and all that time they made up on Bradley Holly, all that mysterious stuff that was going on, all those mistakes that Holly was making to bring that gap back down, that gap has regrown again, and it's now 2.5 seconds again. So Kelly Greenhoe needs to find whatever was going on a few minutes ago, and he needs Holly to make many, many more mistakes because that gap is solidifying.
Yeah, it certainly is here, as you mentioned earlier there that that was Ryan King's able to send the move on David Van Roy, and I think what he's going to do here is just try to run a little bit of interference with Van Roy, try to prevent that number 4 from really getting up ahead and putting on an attack on his teammate, giving time for Kelly Greenhoe to be able to push ahead. And to your point there, it was Bradley Holly able to grow the gap to about upwards of 0.5 of a second. So that's exactly there what Bradley Holly needs to do with just a couple of ticks, under 10 minutes left to go in this race. Absolutely nailing his strategy here. He needs to try to grow that gap each and every lap.
Last lap he did a 1:14.1, which is close to the fastest lap of anybody on the grid right now. They're not running qualifying speeds right now because the tires have worn off just a little bit, but that was a great lap from Holly, and that was a mistake from Kelly Greenhoe again. Takes a trip through the grass, a trip through the dirt, trip through the dust, and that's a few tenths gone again. The gap's going to expand almost to a full 3 seconds now, and Kings going full lion defense mode back here. Holds David Van Roy back. Van Roy almost gets the bumper to him through the exit of the hairpin. This is a great battle for third here, and this is great for Kelly Greenhoe. His teammates doing a great job to hold Van Roy back and help Kelly Greenhoe to just put a 1v1 battle towards Bradley Holly without having to worry about these two really fighting for that position.
Yeah, and there Van Roy tried to take him around the outside of Cunningham, but it looked like it didn't work there. Ryan King's able to hold off on the defense there a little bit to be able to keep that all at bay. It looks like Van Roy's lost a couple of ticks of the clock there to him. He's back down to about 0.4 of a second, so that's going to buy Ryan King's just a little bit of breathing room in between himself and his teammate. The gap has expanded overall upwards of about 0.2 of a second here between Holly and Greenhoe. It sits at about 2.6 right now. Tries to take a wide line there down into the corner. Whoa, Van Roy getting a little bit squirrely, taking a big clobber of the curbs.
Van Roy has just struggled so much with actually making these passes. He's clearly got a lot of speed. He's been so aggressive over the course of tonight, but whether it's fighting with Kelly Greenhoe, whether it's fighting with Ryan Kings, he just hasn't really been able to make the move stick. He's got 7.5 more minutes to figure out how to make that move stick. If he can get by Ryan Kings, I think he has the speed to catch Kelly Greenhoe and maybe finish second here. But he's got to get by a very, very defensive teammate who's doing everything in his power to minimize the points lost, to minimize the gap between the championship leader and Kelly Greenhoe, who will be second in the championship. Van Roy needs to find a break in the armor here, and if he can, I think that's an easy ticket to catch up to Kelly Greenhoe, and that'll make that move so much easier if he's just got cleaner track in front of him and not Ryan Kings ahead of him.
Well, let's remember, as Holly does make a little bit of a mistake there, you can see the dust getting kicked up on the exit of Cunningham, as that was Holly running a little bit wide. Let's also remember what's at stake here for these two mini horsepower drivers. Yes, Holly is in the lead of the race, but his teammates in the form of Kalen and Charles Sumner for Car-Ram Rodaback are well down the order here. So this means that mini horsepower could gain some significant ground in the teams championship. And remember that we said that last week when we spoke to both of the drivers, they were kind of saying that we're starting to look a little bit more at that teams championship as a way to maybe fight back, and that may be what they're setting their eyes to. So these two definitely want to hold on to these two podium positions. If they're able to hold on to that, that's going to be a big, big haul of points.
It will be. I'm trying to do the calculations in my head here. For ninth place for Mark Kalen, that would be something like 22 points. So it would be, yeah, about 50 something points, maybe 57 points for Car-Ram Rodaback for first and ninth. Now Mark Kalen actually loses ninth, so that's one less point. And then second and third for Mini Horse Racing, that'll be 62 points. So about 5 points, maybe 5 to 7 points change. The current gap in the championship is 48 points between the two teams. It's an incremental step, but sometimes an incremental step is better than no step at all. And Mini Horsepower doesn't look like they're going to get the win here unless something terrible happens to Holly, but that gap will likely come down in the team's championship, like you said.
Yes, indeed it will, as it does. Whoa! Kings trying to hold on to it. Big contact with David Van Roy, and that is going to be the right front tire of Ryan Kings. Almost dilapidated there. Commentators curse striking hard for Mini Horsepower team.
So much for that team's championship advantage, and that promotes Patrick Cowgill onto the podium. That's incredible. David Van Roy's got heavy damage. Ryan Kings, the tire falling apart over there, and that car was undrivable, ends up in the tire barrier. And that's just another mistake from Ryan Kings, unfortunately. Gets just too loose through the corner, over the curb. David Van Roy knew where he could go, and that suspension was instantly broken. He takes a hard hit into the concrete barrier there. And that's going to be so frustrating for Van Roy. Second week in a row, he's been taken out by a mistake from Ryan Kings. And it's going to be frustrating from Ryan too, because that's going to be his championship, basically rubber stamped and over. And that's him out of the podium as well.
As we check on a side-by-side here between Putnam and Kalen. Kalen trying to send it around the outside there of Cunningham, working down through the corner. This was the battle back for 9th and 10th. It's now for 7th and 8th. Putnam not letting anything go, though, as they fly their way towards the tower turn, and it's going to be the 71 that's able to get it. Kalen tried to look for a little bit of a crossover there, but it just wasn't doing for him. And now as they work their way on the flying course straight through Rabbit Bend, it looks like Putnam is still able to hold on to that position.
Kalen definitely wants 7th place here. He wants so much more. He wanted a top 5. He wanted to fight for the podium. He wanted to make up for this gap in the championship. But if he finishes 7th here, I don't think we can completely write him out for the championship. He's going to lose probably about 10 more points to Holly. It'll expand the gap between them to about 40 points. But we've seen crazier things happen, and that's not going to help. Kalen almost throws it off the road again, almost throws it into the back of Derek Putnam. And that's probably that battle over, as just as I mentioned it, that's probably the battle over as Derek Putnam pulls about a second and a half ahead now in 7th.
Yes, he does. And now that is going to lead us to our other closest battle out on the track between teammates here for Crikey Esports with 3 minutes left to go in the race. Ian Cabana and Kevin Bergquist right now as they run. Now, I've got to imagine that they're going to play pretty nice here together, seeing as they are teammates. But still, sometimes when you get behind the wheel of a sim, Joey, those goggles go off and you still just want to race.
And Bergquist and Cabana are both fighting for championship position. They're 7th and 8th right now. Bergquist ahead of Cabana by 5 points. So they're not going to run in formation here, I don't think. They are going to fight Derek Putnam. Oh dear, we should just stop mentioning drivers because it just seems to end terribly for them. Derek Putnam has made that mistake that he needed to make to even out the battle with Kalen. Just drives out onto the dust, and does he hit the wall? Oh. He does, but that's the best way you can hit that wall. It's kind of flush to the side. Looks like the right side mirror is going to be the heaviest damaged thing on that car. But that's very disappointing for Derek Putnam. He was having a great run, mistake-free, and he's going to end tonight probably in the latter half of the latter part of the top 10. He's going to get passed by Malcolm Foster here, too.
Yes, he is. Foster's going to be closing up behind him. That is Charles Sumner directly up ahead. That looks like he is able to get the better run and be able to hold himself ahead up of Derek Putnam. Foster now going to be hoping to be able to push that car as well as he can as they bring their way around. Looking here at your leader, though, Bradley Holly, trying to eye exactly when he's going to cross the line. I think there's a chance we may have one to go, but it's going to be a little bit close here as they run. But we're going to keep our eyes focused on this battle because Putnam, I think you called that right, Joey, not all that much of massive damage to him, and he is certainly going to be able to keep the fight up to Sumner up ahead of him.
Gonna peek to the inside. That would be an unorthodox way or place to make a move, and Putnam knows that he's going to hang back, but he's clearly got a lot more pace than Charles Sumner right now. He was running far, far ahead of him. You can see the gap between Sumner and Kalen, about 4 seconds. That's where Putnam should really be, so it's only a matter of time until he makes the move, and I think Charles Sumner knows that. He drives all the way over to the left side of the track. He's not going to let him by explicitly, but he's also not going to put up too much of a fight, and that's going to be Putnam up to 8th place. Heavily damaged, but could be far worse. He's going to recover at least to finish 8th, unless Malcolm Foster or Charles Sumner can pull off something crazier in the last couple laps.
Oh, Sumner and Cabana getting into it there a little. Sumner and Foster rather getting into it there a little bit as they go. But the white flag is in the air for your leader, Bradley Holly. And so that means there was not a whole lot of time for this little trio to sort itself out. Sumner just drives his racing line there as Foster tries to find a way around.
Foster's getting aggressive. He wants P9 here, and I'd argue that he probably has more pace than Sumner right now, too. He's been running faster lap times every single lap here. Last lap, he was 0.7 of a second faster than Charles Sumner. He's got a huge run here, but Sumner's going to block. He knows that it's an unorthodox way to make a move. It's an unorthodox place to make a move, and you can't really go around the outside there. Malcolm Foster's going to have to wait a little bit longer. He's going to have like 3 more corners left in this lap to make the move, but that's going to have to rage on later.
Indeed it is, because Bradley Holly crosses over the line and takes victory here at Sebring. The 184 looking nearly untouchable out there today. It's going to be Kelly Greenhoe and Patrick Cowgill, your biggest mover, moving up through the field to take third. A little bit of a battle here between Cabana and Bergquist as they run to the line. That's not going to flame out into a battle, and it's going to be Cabana who's able to hold out there over Kevin Bergquist.
Looks like Sumner is going to hang on here as well. Well, Foster might get a little bit of a run, but doesn't look like it's going to be good enough. Malcolm had a few chances, couldn't quite make the move. P10 for Foster, P9 for Sumner. More of a race of attrition than we're normally expect in this series. David Van Roy and Ryan Kings both completely out. And I think that might be the highest attrition count we've seen all season. It's been a remarkably clean series. And the fact that we have 2 cars completely out as the biggest casualty of the season. That's pretty impressive.
Yes, it is. As to run you through that final finishing order, it was Bradley Holly that was able to take victory ahead of Kelly Greenhoe and Patrick Cowgill, and that will mean that he will be able to extend his championship lead here after Sebring. Behind them, Michael Chase and Ian Cabana round out your top 5 with Kevin Bergquist and Mark Kalin in 7th. Derek Putnam was 8th, followed by Charles Sumner, who was able to hold off Malcolm Foster for 9th place. Down in 11th, it was Andrew Sharp and Garrett Cottingham, who round out your top 12. Van Roy and Kings, both non-finishers on the day here, unfortunately. And that's going to bring us right into our interview section, and leading the way, it is our winning driver, Bradley Holly, as he joins us here into the commentary booth. And Bradley, it looked like there that you were really able to get that gap in the pit stops. Do you know what you did there to be able to pull that 2-3 second advantage?
I'd like to thank the plate races for that one, because I just sent it in and tried to make it stick, and ended up probably gaining a second or 2 with how late I was braking getting into the pits.
Well, all right, that answers a little bit of our question, and then I want to talk to you about sort of the mid-race there after the pit stops, when it looked like Kelly and Ryan were starting to gain in a little bit of time on you. Were you worried at that point with them coming up behind you, or did you have everything in hand?
Yeah, I wasn't worried. I was a little nervous on fuel, so I clutched it a couple times going into some of the hairpins just to save that few tenths of fuel, and turned out I didn't need it. So once I realized that, I started pushing and opened that gap back up to Kelly.
Well, you did a fantastic job with it, and you continue your winning ways here. We go out to Suzuka West. Kind of a similar circuit to this, I would make an argument. Do you fancy your chances there? Do you have a lot of experience with that particular layout?
Not with that particular layout, but I love that track. I'm a little sad that we're not doing the full circuit, because that would just be a whole lot of fun in the MX-5s. But, it should be a good race. I'm pretty sure Kelly and Ryan are going to be fighting me pretty hard when it comes to that race also.
Well, I know I'm very much looking forward to seeing you guys continue this titanic battle. But Bradley, you know the deal here at this point. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for tonight?
I'd like to thank the Waterback guys first off. I practice and try to be up front every day, so I'd like to thank those guys for sure. I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting us week in and week out. It's always really fun to watch the races back and just watch a fantastic broadcast, and everybody in the PRL. We work hard to try to make these leagues as fun as possible, and I look forward to continue doing that.
Well, we look forward to continuing covering you, Bradley. Thank you so much, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was your victor on the day, Bradley Holly. And Joey, it looks like you've been able to catch up with P2, Mr. Kelly Greenhoe.
Yeah, Kelly Greenhoe, we will drag him into the booth. Kelly, I'm sure slightly disappointing here. Bradley kind of ran away with it up front. What more did you need to stick with him?
Yeah, I'm the bridesmaid. Always the bridesmaid. Second's my new spot, but hey, it's better than nothing. Yeah, I heard you guys asking him about what happened in the pits, how he gained so much time. Ryan missed his pit box. You guys probably saw it on the broadcast. He said he lost probably like 2 full seconds there. I forgot to turn my pit limiter off coming out of the pit and lost at least probably a half second to a second. But he jumped us by more than that. So either way, well done to Brad.
So we got 3 races left to go. The gap has expanded just a little bit. With the bonus points, I'll have to calculate what the gap's actually going to be, but it's probably going to be around 25 points or so with 3 races to go. Are you still thinking championship? And then what do you think you need to bring that gap down?
Yeah, not giving up. I'll be there for the rest of the races, but I'm pretty sure it's mathematically impossible unless, I guess I haven't calculated if I got pole, fastest lap, and the no incident bonus every race and won. It might be possible, but he's literally won every week. That counts for his standings, so it's going to be tough.
Always tough with Bradley Holly, but 3 weeks to go. Which track are you looking forward to the most? We've got another 2 bull rings with the Suzuka West, the Silverstone National, and then the full F1 track at the Nürburgring. Which one do you think you're going to be the best at?
Ooh, probably Nürburgring Grand Prix. I've done well there in the past and just know the layout. The National Circuit Silverstone, I don't think I've ever done, and same with the smaller, whatever, West Suzuka. I know both of those layouts, so I'm sure it's just a matter of figuring out the 1 or 2 transition corners, then the rest of the track is what it is. So, haven't raced Silverstone or Suzuka in a long time, so not real sure. We'll have to freshen up over the next week or 2 and see what happens.
All right, well, we all wish for an exciting championship battle, so we wish you good luck in the coming weeks.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
We'll see Kelly Greenhoe next week as well. That was P2, and DJ, you're going to be with Patrick Cowgill. I think he's the driver who least expected to be on the podium tonight.
Indeed, Patrick, a stomping run up through the field, up 6 positions to be able to gain this 3rd place. You got to be feeling pretty great after that.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a workout.
Well, I mean, what was your mentality coming into the race? Did you think you had the speed to be able to challenge for the podium, or were you just kind of taking everything as it came?
I'm like probably 7th to 12th place car usually, so I had no idea I was going to be able to pull that off.
Well, you pulled it off well, and as I was talking to Bradley a little bit earlier, kind of some similarities between Suzuka West and the Sebring Club layout. Do you think there's chance of a repeat?
I have never raced at that track before, so I'm going to say no.
Well, I wish you luck, man. If you figure out how to run it well, please tell me, because I've never been able to figure it out myself. But, Patrick, is there anybody you want to thank for this podium position tonight?
I got to thank the SRT eSport guys helping me learn how to run road courses better. I got to thank the Whatabat guys. I was chilling in their channel today, and they were helping me with the track too. So I think that's everybody. Oh, and you guys for putting on the broadcast.
Well, it is our absolute pleasure. Patrick, thank you so much, and congratulations on a well-deserved 3rd place.
Thank you.
All right, there you can take a look at our remaining schedule. Only 3 weeks to go here, Joey. Suzuka West, Nürburgring Grand Prix, and Silverstone National. You know, I got to agree a little bit with Bradley. I would love to see the full Suzuka layout, but I think these bull rings have really produced some fantastic action, and I'm still very excited to go to Suzuka next week.
I'm very excited as well, and this week at Sebring Club, Unless I'm very much not remembering another race, I think this was the first race that wasn't decided by a last lap battle. This was the most distant gap between 1st and 2nd at the end of a race, so I think we'll be back to our normal ways next week. Nürburgring GP, a huge track for these Miatas, lots of long straights, and Silverstone National as well. I think we're in for 3 treats at the end of this season, and I really hope we do get a championship battle. And I'm not going to root for the demise of Bradley Holly, but I'd like it to be close up top, and I think everybody would.
I think we would as well. But, folks, we're not done. We've got another race yet to still cover here. That's right. It's time for the GT4 Sprint Series. And we head to the United States National Park of Speed in Road America. Joey, this place is as fast as it is picturesque and miles different from that Sebring Club layout. A track length of about 4 miles here with these GT4s. This is going to be a different beast altogether entirely.
1.7 miles to 4 miles. We've more than doubled the track distance, and this is going to be quite a race. I can guarantee. We saw the GT4 cars put on an incredible race at Sandown last week, where they're not really matched up. We've seen great GT4 races this season at Lime Rock. We've seen a great race at Imola, all places where it's hard to pass. And now we go to Road America, a place that fits these GT4 cars as best as a track possibly can. I think we're in for quite a race tonight, and I cannot wait until this gets started.
I think we're in for a great race as well. As we take a look there at the schedule, you can see there in round 7 as well. 3 more rounds to go. Speaking of places that are difficult to pass at, we head to Brands Hatch next time out, then Road Atlanta, and we end the series at Fuji. And that monster of a main straightaway, I think, is going to be really pretty fantastic to watch for all of these GT4 machines to get out onto track. Well, let's go ahead and take a look here at our championship standings as well. And if you thought that there was a little bit of a gap up at the top of the MX-5 field, well, I got to tell you, Sean Campbell in the number 26 BMW has been absolutely dominant in the course of this season. And by dominant, I mean he hasn't lost a race yet.
He hasn't lost a race yet, and if you were with us last week, He arguably should have lost a race last week, but all the cards fell into his favor. Michael Diaz was a little bit naughty on the final lap. He's actually got a 20-point penalty for rejoining the race and negatively affecting Adam Brockway's chances to take that win away from Sean Campbell. But the seas parted. Sean Campbell won. I'm sure you all saw the highlights somewhere, and that was a fantastic race last week. But now we re-rack, we go again, and now we see if anybody else can try and break Sean Campbell's perfect season.
Yes, we do. And what's going to be really interesting here today, something that I certainly have my eye on as they try to be able to get everything together, is we've got a new name up at the top of the charts, and indeed a new name into the series as a whole. That is in the form of Justin Ream, the Canadian driver who has made his name many a time on the sim before. He has thrown his name into the hat here of the PRL GT4 Sprint Series and currently is qualified in P2, only a 1/10 of a second off of Sean Campbell.
And that's exactly what we needed here. Sean Campbell's had no shortage of competition. He's been fought for the win basically every single week. He hasn't really run away with any of them. With Adam Brockway, with Michael Diaz, with a few other drivers, with Owen Watts, of course. They've all put up great fights on Sean Campbell. They just haven't been able to beat him by the end of the race. And maybe now that we put a 5th Avenger into the equation with Justin Ream, maybe he'll be the one who finally breaks him down.
We certainly will have to see if he is able to do it, but we currently follow one of the Mercedes drivers out on track. I believe that is Michael Diaz in the number 17 as he brings his way out of turn 8 up through the carousel right now. Such a beautiful part of the track and fantastic to see these cars rip around here. But one of the things that's going to be interesting in this when we get to the race, Joey, is some of the aero wash. We haven't really had a chance to talk too much about it, but going through the carousel and obviously through the kink here, drivers are going to have to watch out for it as these GT4s do create a little bit of aero disturbance behind them and do rely on the downforce to be able to generate their speed.
They do, and through the carousel, downforce is more important than just about anywhere else on track. It's similar to some of the corners at Lime Rock, where we also talked quite a bit about the aero wash, about the differences in all these setups of these cars. This is an open setup series as well, so some drivers are going to put more downforce on the cars to be quicker through a lot of these corners, but I imagine most of the field is going to be on a little bit of a lower downforce setup with how long these straights are. They're gonna take away some of the downforce. They're gonna get more straight line speed. They're gonna have to deal with a little bit more understeer, a little bit more wash, but on these long straights, I think it's really worth it.
Yeah, I think it is as well. There are your championship standings there. Sean Campbell leading the way, having not been bested to a victory over the course of the season thus far. About 12 points separates Owen Watts from Adam Brockway, and about 7 points separates Brockway from a tie between Jerome Bretillon and Keith Bonilla. Very, very close run there. Darren Rutherford also certainly putting himself into that equation for the top 3. Rob Campbell currently runs in 7th, followed by Carlos Lopez, Michael Diaz, and Brian Vorse, who rounds out your top 10. Moving on to the Teams Championship, it is Precision Racing Esports that leads the way here by roughly 30 points or so over Hardpoint by Delta Sport and YS Motorsports GT4 in that conversation as well. Lunatic Racing is about 50 points off of that battle, but they are in a close little fight with Throttle Thursdays. Western Mass Motorsports trying to close in on that top 5. Then we move back to Thin Line Racing, RSR by Butt Kicker, who's in a very close battle with Mean Guy Racing, and 499 Racing rounds out your top 10 here today. Speaking of your tops out on the track, there is Justin Ream as he works his way around the top 5 as they have qualified thus far as Campbell, Ream, Castillo Romero, Diaz, and Darren Rutherford.
Only a few minutes left in qualifying. A few drivers I haven't actually seen go out on track. Owen Watts and Adam Brockway. Neither of them are out on track right now, which is very interesting. I almost wonder if they're not actually going to be competing tonight. I don't know. I'll have to confirm that. They were in the session, but they are not in the session right now, so I don't think they will be qualifying, and that'll be unfortunate because they're two of the main characters of this series. If we're looking at it from a dramatic perspective, they've both been fighting Sean Campbell for these wins, and if they're not here tonight, that's going to be disappointing, but they'll still have some competitors, and he's going to have strong competition from Justin Ream in the 15 on your screen right now. Only 1/10 off Sean Campbell in this McLaren that hasn't been the pick of the field. We've only seen a few drivers opt for this McLaren, and some of them haven't been especially successful with it. Owen Watts has. The Hardpoint by Delta Sport drivers have been fairly successful with it, but Justin Ream here really putting up a solid lap here, and now we wait. Can he beat Sean Campbell to pole? That doesn't happen very often.
No, it certainly hasn't, but Ream has put up purple times through Sector 1 and Sector 4. Let's see if he's able to improve here on a 2:15.269. He's going to come across the start-finish line with a 2:15.137. That is provisional pole for the number 15.
Sean Campbell's getting scared, I'm sure. This perfect season, the perfect season has never been done before in the Precision Racing League. Nobody has ever won 10 out of 10 races. Sean Campbell, I'm sure he wants to be the first one to ever do that, and it's still certainly possible. It's only a 7,000th of a second gap between first and second, but we really have a challenge here up top for this win. This might be the biggest challenge Sean Campbell's faced all season. He's faced some pretty tough challenges so far this season. Remember Imola, remember Lime Rock, remember last week at Sandown. It's not been easy for Sean Campbell, but he has handled the pressure fantastically.
Yeah, he certainly has. As we watch now, Carlos Lopez trying to work his way around. Lopez trying to improve from a 10th place position right now. He is going to have Brian Vorse directly up ahead of him. And while he will have suffered a little bit from the aero wash going through those quick sections of the track, he is going to get a big heaping of the draft here down this long front straightaway. Let's see if Lopez is able to improve. I am seeing some green sector times there on his map. He's going to cross over the line with a 1:16.896. That's a good enough bump up to go 3 positions, and he'll find himself in 7th.
Very wide spread for the Aston Martins in the field. Here's another Aston Martin, Rob Campbell. We've got Carlos Lopez is the highest one in 7th. Actually, no, he's not. Darren Rutherford's the highest one in 5th. Then Lopez, then Arangua, then Campbell, and then a few other stragglers down at the bottom of the timesheet. So an Aston Martin seems to be very diverse in terms of the amount of speed drivers have been able to get out of it. Rob Campbell had a difficult week last week at Sandown in both the GT4s and the GT3s, but he's comfortable at Road America. I think he might have won here in a previous season in the GT4s at Road America. He's got a very, very long lap to go here. It's looked decent through the first sector, but it's very difficult to predict because there's just so much going on at Road America. You make one mistake over the course of a 2-minute and 16-second lap, and that might as well just be the lap over, which is disappointing on such a long lap because you've just got to keep going. You got to wait for the next one to start.
Yes, you do, and you saw him have a little bit of a bobble there coming up and over turn 6, one of the trickiest corners on the circuit to get right, as you've got to apply the pressure, or you've got to apply the throttle pedal really as you're coming up over onto the flat crest of a hill, and that can really throw off the rear end of the car, even with the traction control that these cars see. A little bit of a good run there through the kink. He now gets onto the power through the kettle bottoms, working his way to Canada corner, jumps onto the binders there, flicking his way down through the gears into third gear as he gets onto the loud pedal, taking a good chunk of that runoff. Campbell running pretty well there, seeing a couple of green sector times, indicating a personal best here for the number 93. Let's see if he's got anything through the last corner.
He's got no help down the front straight like Carlos Lopez did, so this is going to be completely vanilla Aston Martin straight line speed for Rob Campbell. Up the hill, 2:16.9 the time to beat. If he can find a few hundredths of a second, he'll beat Carlos Lopez and maybe get a little bit closer to Darren Rutherford, but unfortunately, he improves by a whopping, oh no, I thought it was 0.003 of a second. That was just a timing glitch. He actually improved by a few hundredths of a second, so still no improvement, but a couple hundredths is still better than 1,000th.
Yes, it is, but he will stay where he was, not able to move his way up or down the order at all. I can tell you right now that Sean Campbell is back out on track, trying to see if he's able to get anything. We check in on one of the hard point by Delta Sport drivers here, Drew Price, as he works his way through the left-hander, getting ready to come under the carousel there in turns 9 and 10. McLaren here being pretty favored by a hard point as they try to work themselves around Price, trying to improve on a 2:18.
McLaren on pole right now. It's a McLaren next up in 11th with Brian Vorst, the other hardpoint Delta Sport McLaren in the field right now. Owen Watts, of course, not in the field tonight, unfortunately. So it's just Price and Vorst for the representation for the hardpoint by Delta Sport McLaren team here through Canada corner. Again, just looks fairly solid for the McLaren. It looks planted. It doesn't look like it's dancing too badly over the curbs. It's not trampolining like the BMW usually does. It just looks like a very, very strong, a very, very planted car. Looks very, very nice to drive. Well, let's see if it's quick here in a straight line all on its own. To the line, he's going to peel onto the inside, shorten the run just a little bit, make a triangle out of that part of the straight. Can he improve from a 2:18.2? Looking decent. He does. Full 6/10 improvement. Well done. He's actually going to jump his teammate up to 11th.
Good run there from Drew Price, and with 34 seconds left on the clock, he will have the ability to get one more lap in here. Drivers will be able to finish up on their flying lap if they so choose. As he's going to be able to go around here, we check in on the 27 of Brian Vorst. Vorst currently in 12th place right now. I'm sure he'd like to try to move his way up a little bit more as he works his way out of turn 8 and down through the carousel.
Time's going to be up here in a few seconds. This is the last chance for Brian Vorst. I'm sure he wants to beat his teammate. There's a little bit of a gulf between 11th and Jerome Bertiome in 10th. There's like half a second that Brian Vorst would need to find if he wants to jump up into the top 10. Rob Campbell improves, and now Jerome Bertiome improves as well. There's clearly time left on the track here for improvement. That was a great lap by Jerome to put himself up into 7th. So maybe the top 10 isn't out of the question for Brian Vorst. He needs to find 0.7 of a second over the course of this lap. But Jerome just found 4. It's not impossible for Vorst, and he might actually get a little bit of a draft from Sean Campbell up ahead.
Yeah, he'll get the little inkling of a draft here as they bring their way through the final corner right now, trying to, as you said, sort of get that good diamond off at the corner as best as possible. Good line there for Vorst. Looks like Campbell's going to come up pit lane right now, so Vorst is going to be on his own, trying to improve on that time of a 1:17.617. He's going to charge to the line, and he is going to be able to improve there, and that's Vorst all the way up into 7th.
That was like a full second improvement. That's incredible for Brian Vorst. Very well done on the last lap there. I don't know if the track conditions are improving or what, but there's a lot of time on this track right now, and that bodes well for Rob Campbell. If he can pull off a good lap here, there's clearly time on the track. If he can find 0.8, 0.9 of a second like Brian Vorst did, Rob Campbell could find himself in 3rd here.
Yes, he could. So let's see if the number 93 is able to do anything as he brings his way through the kink. Good line there, kicking up a little bit of grass, but that's exactly how you want to do it. The MS Motorsports driver tries to see if he's able to get anything here. I also see Francisco Castillo Romero out on track, so plenty of other drivers here as Castillo Romero is actually going to cross over the line, and he's not going to be able to improve. Campbell trying to see what he's got here coming through Bill Mitchell Bend. Only one corner to go, Joey.
Now we wait for those agonizing 16 seconds. They're just as agonizing for us as they are in the car. You're just sitting there and waiting. There's a spin in the background. One of the YS Motorsports drivers, they're not going to improve. But here comes Rob Campbell. Is the improvement there like it has been for everybody else? It's not, unfortunately, and I'm sure he knew that coming out of the final corner. He knew there was no time in there, and Rob Campbell, P9, could be far worse, but there was time on the track there, and unfortunately couldn't take advantage of it. Looks like Nicholas Karangis is going to be the last driver on track. He can hop up into the higher parts of the second half of the field. He only needs another 10th to jump into the top 10 with Carlos Lopez. Actually needs a second and a 10th. I miscounted that. Let's see what he can find here to the line.
Let's see what he's got. One of the Porsche drivers in the field. Again, the drivers for the Porsche not looking at particularly good. But we'll have to see if Nicholas is able to improve. He's going to improve by a couple of hundredths of a second, but that's not going to bump him up and down the order at all, unfortunately.
It would have jumped him ahead of Brian Hoskins, but I think that might have been a 5th or a 6th lap for Mr. Karangis, so that's not going to count. He will start 15th, but he's been good at picking up the pieces when he can keep it on the track, so don't count out Nicholas for a top 10.
All right, that's going to bring us to our qualifying grid here. Justin Ream with a little bit of the surprise. The newcomer into the series will line up in P1. Sean Campbell to his outside. Francis Castillo Romero lines up third, followed by Michael Diaz. Darren Rutherford and Keith Bonilla will line up behind them in row 3. Row 4 will be Brian Force and Jerome Berthiaume in P8. P9 will be Rob Campbell and Carlos Lopez. Matthias Arunga will be in 11th, followed by Drew Price in 12th, with Greg Doucette and Brian Hoskins behind them. Nicholas Karangis will be in 15th with Jeffrey Seabach 16th, and Blake Ziti lines up in 17th. Matt Dinsmore rounds out the top 18, and then Jacob Kruger and Andrew Venaro round out your 20-car field here today at Road America. And as drivers get ready, get themselves psyched up and ready to go, we've got a full pace lap around here, Joey, so plenty of time for these drivers to get their head into the game and, crucially, maybe warm up the tires a little bit. It's only 89 degrees Fahrenheit out on track, and so that means that they are not going to be able to get going.
And a full pace lap means like 5 minutes of time to go for a little bit of a nap and wait and wait and wait. I gotta be honest, I hate the full pace lap at Road America so much. It makes me so frustrated whenever I'm sitting here. It just takes so long, and you just want to race, and the lap never ends. And sometimes people hit each other in the official races on the pace lap, and that's even more frustrating. There's not going to be any shenanigans like that here in PRL, but this long pace lap is legitimately frustrating for some drivers who are impatient like I am. And that might take into consideration something at the start of the race. If you're a little bit antsy, you're more inclined to make mistakes at the start of the race, and that's not something you can write off.
No, it certainly is not. As there you can see some of the race information on that. It is an open setup out here, as we mentioned, so that means we're going to see a variety of settings. And with the downforce coming into play, we'll see some drivers maybe opting to go for a little bit more speed through the twisty bits, maybe a little bit more speed down the straightaway. It is a 40% maximum fuel race, which means we will see drivers come down pit lane. But I've got to imagine here that Joey, with this, such a long lap time as this is, probably going to see that pit strategy window narrowed a little bit.
It will be narrowed because you can't really extend a full lap at Road America of fuel. With how long it is, you need to save an inhuman amount of fuel to go a little bit longer. But it's not always about a full lap of fuel you're saving. It's not always about going another time around the track. It's about saving those fractions of a gallon and saving those seconds, those fractions of a second in the pits, which is what Sean Campbell's been so good at doing over the past couple weeks. He's not pulling strategies where he's going an extra lap compared to everybody, but he is saving important fractions of fuel, and that's where a lot of his gaps have been formed, and that's where a lot of his races have been won.
Yes, indeed. And we'll have to see if that maybe comes into play, maybe won't. We don't know. And we'll have to see how Justin Ream does in race trim around here. One bit of bad news for fans of Owen Watts. It looks like he had a little bit of an emergency there and had to scamper off. So he is not going to be joining us here for the race tonight. And Owen, we hope everything is okay with you and your family.
Still 2 hard point by Delta Sport Motorsport. That's a lot of sports in the field tonight, though. Owen Watts. I'm stumbling over your names. I'm so sorry. Hard point by Delta Sport. But Brian Vorse is here, and Drew Price is here, and they'll both be flying the flag for the team with lots of sports in their name that I did manage to say in the right order eventually. Those McLarens look pretty strong. There's a little bit of chaos up front. They may have only qualified 7th and 12th, but Price and Vorse, they both picked up the pieces in previous weeks. And this is going to be a crazy race no matter what. It's Road America. They'll look to pick up the pieces and make up for what their teammate Owen Watts might have been able to do.
Indeed, they will, as here they come down through turn 7, looking into turn 8 before we take our way on to the carousel right now. Ream leading the field around. Sean Campbell just sort of stalking behind him right now as they go, trying to see, you can see the weaving going on in these cars, trying to get as much temperature as they can. It's actually fallen a little bit. It's about 85 degrees Fahrenheit in the air and about 88 degrees Fahrenheit out on track, so pretty much right in that Goldilocks zone that we like to talk about, albeit a little chilly. But one big thing to talk about here, Joey, look at that wind speed, 19 miles an hour. That's going to make for some interesting crosswind at some certain corners and maybe a little bit of headwind, tailwind that could help with the draft.
That is very, very gusty. All the fans in general admission, I hope you're listening to this on your scanners. Hold on to your umbrellas. They might be getting blown away. But that is very windy, and that's another thing you have to take into consideration. It's a cold track temp. It's a windy day. Now the second we start mentioning it, it's starting to die down just a little bit, but even 13, 12, 11, 10 miles per hour, that's still heavy winds. It's a chilly day at Road America. That's great for tires, but might not be so good for the balance of these cars.
Yeah, and we'll have to see who was able to take that into consideration when they got everything dialed into these setups. Is now they come their way out of Canada corner right now. Justin Ream leading the field around behind the Porsche pace car as we wait for the field to come through Bill Mitchell Bend. There you can see everybody working their way around, trying to see what they've got, and we will slowly but surely start to form our way up here out of the final quarter and on to this epic main straightaway that climbs its way uphill. There, the field comes in 2 by 2. All eyes on Barney the Flagman. All eyes on the flag stand and all eyes on Justin Ream as he is going to be the one controlling the pace as they climb the hill right now, waiting for the 15. And there goes the green. We are racing in Road America. It's a good getaway there for Ream, and indeed he's going to pull out a pretty sizable margin. It looks like Francis Castillo-Romero thought about a little bit of a look to the inside of Sean Campbell there. Very, very wide fan out there in the back as they work their way through turn 1. Looks like the first couple of rows of cars are through okay. A little bit of shuffling around. Darren Rutherford able to get a position over Brian Vorse as they come down now. I think the whole field has made it through.
A little bit of a laggy start for Sean Campbell, but that BMW very, very quick in a straight line. He was able to hold Francis Castillo-Romero back. And now look at the big beamer down the second of many, many straights here at Road America. He's fast in a straight line. He could peek to the inside, and he does. He waits until the end of the straight, but he's not able to be late enough on the brakes. That McLaren looks to be a little bit higher downforce, a little bit better on the brakes. Ream's going to hang on, but Campbell's going nowhere.
Yes, he is, and this is going to be the course of the track if your supposition is correct there, Joey, where Ream is going to be able to pull away a little bit. You can see the alternating lines as they come down in through turn 7, now coming down the hill into turn 8 through the hurry downs. The whole field here looking like they've been able to get away cleanly and snake their way through single file, so a good start here for everybody.
Clean start all throughout the field. You can see now the ticker's on your screen. Every single driver just running in line here. Sean Campbell, next straight here coming up. We've made it through the carousel nice and clean. No real effects of the aero wash visible on that BMW. It looks very, very planted through the kink. Not quite flat in these cars, but it's a decent run for Sean Campbell. He just lost a little bit of time to that higher downforce McLaren. He was able to hold more speed through the kink. Justin Ream was. And Campbell loses out down the back straight. BMW's got straight line speed, but it might not have the cornering speed to maximize all these exits onto the long straights.
Well, we'll have to see how that give and take plays itself out here over the course of this 40-minute race. Campbell taking a little bit of a tighter line there on the exit of Bill Mitchell Bend, and that's going to keep him close behind Ream. The gap only about 3.5 tenths of a second right now as they climb their way up the hill. Francis Castillo-Romero holding onto the back of this duo to the best of his ability, but it looks like it could be starting to evolve here a little bit into a two-car breakaway. And here comes Campbell trying to see if he's got anything going down into turn one. Not the best overtaking opportunity as you really flick down only into about third or fourth gear into the corner, and indeed Campbell's going to stay behind Justin Ream.
But remember that number you see on the top of your screen, that gap was 4 tenths coming onto the front straight, and it was 1 tenth at the end of it. So this BMW appears to be 3 tenths of a second faster than the McLaren on each one of these straights. And on the exit of turn 3 there, Campbell was only 2 tenths behind. If he wants to go for another peek into turn 5 this lap, he can. He's closing it down. He doesn't seem content to run in line. He's going to take another peek, but he's going to have to be way later on the brakes than Ream, and that just seems impossible right now. And he's just going to stay in line. He's going to peek to the inside in turn 5, but no move coming just yet.
Well, and look at what that slowdown has done as we've got a little bit of a battle farther back down in the field. Arango and Lopez, and that's the 22. That is the 22 of Carlos Lopez around on the exit of turn 5. Stuck off into the kitty litter there. He's going to be able to get that car re-going, but he's going to find himself all the way down the order.
And that's going to be so disappointing for Lopez. He had a great qualifying, and he got no help. I thought he might have gotten some help from one of his fellow Aston Martins, but no, just too much speed through the center of the corner, and the Aston Martin, such a strong qualifying for Carlos Lopez, goes around. He's in the back of the field now. He's lucky he did it early, though. He's got 36 minutes to make up for that.
Yes, he does, as we focus on a little bit of a battle farther down in the field here right now. This is Doucette, Hoskins, and Carangis running together, those two plaid Porsches, as here comes Doucette thinking about a little bit of a move down into the kink. That is not an area where you want to be trying to go too wide, but Doucette not to be dissuaded. All over the back there of Doucette's Porsche is Brian Hoskins, trying to see what he can do. Is he going to try to make the dive into Canada corner? No, the Mercedes will stay in line.
Just doesn't seem to be quite fast enough in a straight line. The Mercedes of Brian Hoskins. The Porsche, it's not known for being the fastest car in the straight line in terms of GT4s, but Greg Doucette in the plaid Porsche doing a very solid job, a solid defensive job, and clearly very slippery in a straight line. It's a little bit of a Porsche sandwich here with him and Carangis up the hill. Let's do a comparison again here. It's a good run on exit for Hoskins, but he needs a great run here down the front straight if he wants to beat Doucette into turn 1. The Mercedes faster in a straight line than the Porsche normally. He's going to pull alongside, but it's hard to make this move into 1.
Yes, it is, but let's see if the 520 is able to be brave enough on the binders. It looks like there that Doucette's going to try to hold the advantage on the outside. They'll stay side by side as they charge down the hill through the sweep of turn 2 and into turn 3, down into the corner, and it looks like the Porsche's going to be able to keep the advantage. Is that going to compromise the straight line spirit of the 520? We will have to see as they get themselves up to speed here going through the Moraine sweep. No changes at the front of the field, this being one of the best battles we've got on the track. Can Hoskins get this move done going into turn 5? It looks like the gap has expanded a little bit, and Carangis even thought about a little bit of a move there from behind.
Hoskins' best run seems to be down the front straight, so we might just have to sit back and wait for a whole nother lap here unless Doucette makes a mistake. And Greg Doucette has not been a driver who's made many mistakes this season. Remember last week at Sandown, a race filled with mistakes. I don't believe he made a single one. If I remember correctly, he brought it home P5, which was a fantastic race for Greg Doucette, and we're waiting for him to make a mistake. He's not going to make one. Hoskins needs a great run out of the carousel, out of the kink, into Canada corner somewhere, because he's got a straight line speed advantage, but he just isn't really able to do anything with it if he can't exit any of the corners.
Well, and look there, it looks like he lost a lot of time coming through the carousel, and indeed that gap is going to grow up to about 4 or 5 tenths of a second here, able to gain a little bit back on the exit of the carousel. That's good there through the kink. Looks like that was able to gain him a little bit of time. The gap coming down to about 0.3 of a second and maybe 2.5 here. The draft coming into play. Is he going to have a poke out down into Canada corner? No, they're still going to stay in line.
Greg Doucette, just for the record, finished 4th last week at Sandown, so even better than I initially thought. I thought he finished 5th, but no, P4, fantastic finish for Greg Doucette last week. A little bit further down the order than he would like right now. He's got plenty of time to make up for it, and he's doing a great defensive job, but that's a great exit finally for Brian Hoskins. He's got another run. He's not able to pull alongside up the hill yet. He's got time. He's got a long straight to work this out. Is he going to peek to the inside, or is he just going to stay back in line and save fuel? He's going to peek out, but he's going to get back in line. He just doesn't think he's fast enough to make the move, I don't think, and he might just have to save a little bit of fuel here, take advantage of being stuck behind Doucette for a little bit. If you can't make the move, you might as well make the move in the pits.
Yeah, exactly. That may be what it comes to, although he has a little bit of a peak there down into turn 3, halfway thinking about it there in the 520, trying to get by on the 77, but again, that straight line speed playing out. We take a look back at the front of the field as they have stayed where they are. Justin Ream holding out the most infinitesimal of advantages over Sean Campbell, and Francis Castillo-Romero, to his credit, staying involved in this battle, as is Michael Diaz.
How many times have we seen this season? It's just the train in the initial stage of the race, and then after the pit stops, everything starts to go crazy. Sean Campbell just kind of hunting his prey here. He knows he's faster in a straight line. There's probably a little bit more in the tank than he's willing to show right now. But right now, he's just kind of content to stick with Ream. He's not going to lose him if he's running in second, so he might as well. As I always say, it's kind of boring to say that the race might be decided in the pits instead of on track, but Sean Campbell knows that in a race with a pit stop, it's pretty darn important to nail that, and that's how he's won so many races this season, just by hanging back when another driver seems to have an advantage early on, whether it's been Brockway or Watts or Diaz or anybody. Campbell's just hung behind. He's waited until the pit stop, and he's waited until the last couple of moments to finally pounce and win the race.
Yes, he has. We check back on this battle further back into the field. Doucette trying to see if he is still able to hold off Hoskins. This is one of the best runs we've seen out of the Mercedes driver coming down into Canada corner. Thought about a little bit of a move there, but the Mercedes is going to stay in line. Let's keep our eyes focused here, because remember that Brian Hoskins has looked particularly quick coming up and over the main straightaway. So let's see if he's able to keep that up. Gets a good launch there out of Bill Mitchell Bend. Now the crucial final corner here, if you are in the shoes of Greg Doucette or Brian Hoskins, who is going to be able to be the one to hold this out. That gap starting to come down. It's a 10.5. Here it comes. Little bit of a peak there for Hoskins. A bigger peak. He's going to go down to the inside. We've seen him try this once before. Will the 520 be able to get it to work here? He's going to try to hold it out. Onto the binders. Both drivers go. He's got a nose ahead as they come through the corners. Tries to force out the 77 a little bit wide. I think he's just about got it done, and indeed he does.
And Karanjas tried to take advantage there as well, get by his teammate. Here through turn 3, peeks to the inside, but he's going to stick back just a little bit, let Greg Doucette get his bearings back, maybe try and put another attack on Brian Hoskins. There's trouble in the back. Looks like Andrew Venaro's off the road, but here comes Greg Doucette on the fight back. The Porsche fighting back in a straight line. Karanjas thinks about 3 wide, smartly backs out of it, but Doucette around the outside. That's exceptionally difficult in turn 5, and he's not able to do it. He's likely going to have to fall back in line here, or he's not if Brian Hoskins decides to blink out. Luckily he's back here, and Hoskins has been the quicker of the two. I'd expect him to start running away here. Maybe Greg Doucette's better on offense than he was on defense, and we'll see him stick to the back of Hoskins.
Well, and I want to give some credit there to Hoskins. A perfect defense there coming down through turn 5, just planting the car at the apex, slowing it down a little bit and preventing any sort of fight back coming up into turn 6 there from Greg Doucette. So really, really heads up. And Joey, you hit the nail on the head. Look at that gap already starting to develop. Let's call it about 3-4 car lengths as they work their way out of the carousel.
And next up on Hoskins' list, now that he's been stuck behind Doucette for so many laps, there's a 5-second gap up to Drew Price, so he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to compete for 11th and maybe even the top 10 with Matias Arangua 5 further seconds up the field. So Brian Hoskins looking for a lonely couple of minutes here, unless he's joined by Greg Doucette, and he might just be if he makes mistakes like that. He overcooked it just a little bit into Canada corner, got on the throttle a little bit too early, got loose off there in the runoff. He's not going to be able to run away with this just yet. Greg Doucette's still there.
Yes, he is, but let's see if that straight line speed advantage that we anticipate the Mercedes having is going to be able to hold it out here for the number 520. It looks like he's going to be able to at least keep it at bay for the moment, and indeed, I don't think there's going to be any closeness there, although I can tell you that Brian Force was able to send a move on Keith Bonilla right now. They're actually side by side coming down into turn 3. This is a little bit hairy there between the two. Force absolutely chucking it in, and now Darren Rutherford wants to get involved.
We want to talk about Mercedes versus McLaren again. How about we put an Aston Martin in the party as well, side by side, down into turn 5 here. Darren Rutherford getting some of the draft from Brian Vorse, who's kind of picking his friends here. He chooses Darren Rutherford to pull along. Rutherford way too late on the brakes, though. You could see that one coming at the start of the braking zone. He had a chance to go around the outside of Bonilla there, but no, he just overcooks it, outbrakes himself, loses that spot, slots back in between Berthiaume and Bonilla. Darren Rutherford seems pretty quick right now. He got some help from Brian Vorse, but couldn't quite get the car slowed down there in turn 5, and that's always such an important place.
As we take a look here on board with Jerome, currently P8 right now, trying to close in behind on Rutherford, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, seeing what they can do in this train. He'll get a nice triple helping of the draft here as they work their way out of the kink, but he will have some pretty significant aero wash that he's going to have to try to fight against as he brings the car around, looking like he's losing a little bit of time in that BMW. We've talked about some of the pitfalls of that car before. It is a little bit sluggish necessarily around corners, but Jerome seems to like the car, likes the way it handles. A little bit of side-by-side up at the front of the field there. That is going to be Vorse and Bonilla side-by-side going down into Canada corner. Who's going to be able to take that advantage out there? Still side-by-side. Don't know how they haven't made contact here yet as they come through Bill Mitchell Bend. That's going to be favored of Vorse, and Bonilla off into the grass.
Bonilla and Vorse, it's hard to go side by side up through there, and that's what can happen. Just not enough room between those two cars, and the Bonilla phone has been taken off the ring or off into the grass. That's going to be P9 for Keith Bonilla. Brian Vorse is going to hang on to P5, but Darren Rutherford isn't going anywhere. Remember how strong he was in a straight line on that last lap. He got help from Brian Vorse down the straight, but Darren Rutherford is not interested in making friends right now. He wants this top 5. He actually peeks to the inside, but not able to be late enough on the brakes. Actually opens the door up for Jerome Berthiaume as well. There's just an incredible diversity of lines and braking distances between all of these cars, and it's all one out for Brian Vorse up ahead.
That little peak there from Berthiaume is going to cost him a little bit as Darren Rutherford now wants to get interested in this battle. That very distinctive pink metallic Aston Martin tucking up behind the Precision Racing driver as they fly down the Moraine sweep here. Are we going to see a little bit of a poke out to one side or the other as they come down into the braking zone to turn 5? Rutherford thinks about it, but not going to go for it.
Rutherford not able to make the move in one Aston Martin. Campbell not able to make the move in the other Aston Martin. It's not been a good day to be an Aston Martin trying to make moves. And now both Porsches have gotten by Brian Hoskins. Doucette is back ahead. Carangis is back ahead. Now Carangis peeks to the inside. Doucette, they're both going to fight for this position up into turn 6. And Nicholas Carangis, who was once third in this line, in this fight for P11, he now takes the lead of this line. He's going to be P11 ahead of his teammate.
And that was a little bit of an opportunistic move for Jacob Kruger coming down into turn 7. You saw the 144 Mercedes driver trying to take a little bit of a peek. He's going to have to fall back in line here for Lunatic Racing right now. We ride on board with him as he works his way through the carousel, losing a little bit of time, unfortunately, but he may be able to catch that back up with the helping of the draft going out of the kink.
Mercedes always very powerful in a straight line. He's going to lose a little bit of the draft if Brian Hoskins continues to blink like that. You can't get a draft from a car that doesn't exist in the same physical plane as you. But down the back straight here, Hoskins so strong in a straight line. Kruger so strong in a straight line, if I said all those syllables correctly. But Doucette and Carangis working together at the head of this train. They're pulling away just a little bit. These Porsches might have a disadvantage in a straight line, but when they're working as two cars in one, they seem pretty darn slippery in a straight line. And I imagine Doucette, as the faster of the two in this battle, will probably be let by, or they'll just fight it out here. Doucette took a peek to the inside. Carangis is actually going to throw it off the road just a little bit, and they're going to naturally switch positions.
Yes, they are, and so there goes Doucette back on by again. Carangis going to slip in behind his Porsche teammate there and get a nice helping of the draft, trying to prevent a little bit of an attack here coming from behind, though Doucette has to worry about it. Hoskins thinking about it, Carangis thinking about it, everybody getting together as this quintet runs all together. And oh, that's a driver around. That's the number 27 of Brian Vorse.
That's so disappointing for him. He was having a great race, holding up the fort for Hardpoint by Delta Sport, and he's going to fall to 10th place. Let's see what happened. Did Darren Rutherford give him any help? I can't imagine so. No, just under braking, gets a little bit oversteery, and with the ABS, with everything in these cars, it is so hard to save that. And he actually gets clipped a little bit by the Mercedes behind Rob Campbell. That was Keith Bonilla, who's now got heavy front end damage. That's great for Rob Campbell. Now the Mercedes is going to be nerfed just a little bit because its biggest advantage, its straight line speed, is now going to be diminished by a little bit of damage on the front end.
Yes, it is. And so we're going to have to see here now if Campbell is going to be able to take full advantage of that in that Aston Martin as they fly under the Johnsonville Bridge through the carousel here, waiting to see what's going to fly off, how it's going to happen here, and we'll get an idea of exactly what that top-end deficit will be for the Mercedes driver of Keith Bonilla in the number 8. Doesn't look like he's got too much damage, but this is going to be the indication here. Looks like he's able to get the car nice and cleanly through the kinks, so that'll certainly help him out as we tick closer and closer to the halfway point in this race. We anticipate pit stops probably firing off a little bit closer to 10 minutes left to go, as most of these drivers like to wait until the very end to come on down pit lane.
And that straight line speed doesn't seem to be too diminished for Keith Bonilla. That little crunch not hurting him too bad, but here's another Mercedes. Brian Hoskins still trying to attack Nicholas Carangis. He's probably thinking, what do I have to do to get ahead of these darn Porsches? I'm going to be seeing Plaid in my dreams here. I can't get by him for more than a lap. But now he's on the attack on Nicholas Carangis. The number 311 has been a little bit sloppy on this lap. Hoskins has also been a little bit sloppy. Doucette's pulled away just a little bit on both of them, but that's a great run through the final corner for Brian Hoskins. Should be fairly straightforward. Carangis parks it in the middle of the track, makes Brian pick which line he wants to take, but Hoskins to the inside here. He's almost going to be clear into turn 1, and this should be fairly straightforward for the 520.
Yeah, I have to think it would. The only problem here is that's going to be Blake Ziti able to come up behind. Whoa! Late on the brakes there is Carangis. If he's able to get that car contained up into the corner, a great defense there for the 311, but it's still going to allow Hoskins to try to keep to the inside as they go down into turn 3. Hoskins loses some positions, and sure enough, here comes Blake Ziti into the equation.
Very, very well done, Nicholas Carangis. Way to prove me wrong. That Porsche kind of found a second life in the second part of that straight. I guess maybe it has a little bit of a higher gearing than the Mercedes Brian Hoskins. It's not as fast in the initial stage of the straight, but then at the end, when you start to get to the top of the range, that Porsche just found a little bit of extra life. And again, Hoskins not able to do anything in the latter stages of the straight in the braking zone. He's going to have to wait again. Just noticed on the side of your screen, the fabled yellow numbers have started popping up. Andrew Venaro and Dinsmore, they both came down pit road. Those are legitimate stops. We're halfway in the race. Some drivers are going to wait as long as possible, but I imagine we'll start to see some drivers just split this race directly in half.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's going to be some varying pit strategy, but as we talked about there, because it is such a long lap around here, we're going to see that strategy probably shrink a little bit, the window not nearly as big. I can tell you, by the way, that up at the front of the field, Justin Ream and Sean Campbell have broken away a little bit from the trailing cars. Francis Castillo-Romero and Michael Diaz sit about a second and a half behind these two, but it certainly seems like this is going to be the battle, and here comes Ream down pit lane.
Here we go. Is this a normal strategy for Justin Ream, or is this maybe a little bit of inexperience in the PRL? At least he's got no shortage of experience in GT4 machinery, in GT machinery as a whole on iRacing. But maybe does he not know what Sean Campbell normally does in this series? Does he not know what to cover off? Either way, he's come down pit road here. 20 minutes to go. He's going to split this race directly in half. We'll have to see how this compares to Sean Campbell's tried and true strategy here in the PRL GT4 series.
We will have to see indeed. We ride on board with now the third place driver of Michael Diaz as he tries to chase down his fellow Mercedes driver of Francis Castillo Romero directly ahead of him. You can see him a little bit strangely not sticking directly behind in the draft of Castillo Romero. Joey, I thought you'd want to be behind there as much as possible, even if it's not to close up, to try to maybe sip a little bit of fuel, save some fuel mileage.
Yeah, I don't know why Michael Diaz wouldn't be in the draft and trying to save fuel mileage there. It's hard to explain things sometimes, and these two Mercedes likely not trying to work together. Diaz kind of wants this track position here. He wants to try and jump Ream if he's on a suboptimal pit strategy. And speaking of Ream, he's actually come out of the pits directly behind Jeffrey Seebach, so he's come out in traffic, which is going to hurt him even more. Sean Campbell's got completely clean road there. Well, look at Justin Ream further back. He's behind Jeffrey Seebach. He's going to be behind Carlos Lopez. He's going to be in traffic. Now we look at Jerome Bertiome. Speaking of traffic, he makes a big mistake there coming into the carousel, and Bonilla is going to try and go around the outside. That's going to be impossible to do, and he's going to have to back out of it and find another way by.
Yeah, I thought about even the crossover coming out of the carousel, which we have seen work every once in a while, but that's going to really allow for both Bertiome, Bonilla, and Campbell to be running absolutely on top of each other. Almost a bump draft there coming out of the kink for Keith Bonilla. A massive amount of overspeed. We'll have to see if he's able to get anything here going down into Canada Corner. Is he going to have a little bit of a poke out? No, all three cars are going to stay in line as they work their way through the famous corner in the middle of the woods. Waiting to see here. Maybe we're going to have some more drivers pulling off down pit lane. Campbell, Castillo Romero, and Diaz all responding here to Justin Ream.
I expect literally everybody to come down pit road here. Rutherford's going to come down, Bertiome, Bonilla, Campbell. This is kind of the limit here. This is going to be the hard limit. It's going to be hard to go a full extra lap, like we mentioned in the pre-race, with how long this track is. But now we wait. What's the difference? Justin Ream got stuck behind Jeffrey Seebach for a few corners. He's going to have lost time there. How much fuel did Sean Campbell save in second? Is he going to find one of his mystical 3-second gaps after the pit cycle again? Don't go away. You're about to see.
There is Ream coming out of the final corner right now. This is an incredibly long and frustrating pit lane at points. Campbell at pit exit right now, but Ream fully up to speed. How is this going to shake itself out? He did it again. He did it again. Sean Campbell up into the lead. Justin Ream losing positions.
And that is a massive difference in pit deltas. Sean Campbell, 15.3 seconds in the box. Justin Ream, 18.6 seconds in the box. So that's not a mystery for Sean Campbell. I think that's just a mistake from Justin Ream. I think he's overfueled the car, because a few other drivers have put that much fuel into the car. But Sean Campbell, 3 full seconds less in the pits than anybody else. Michael Diaz as well, 16.9 seconds in the pits, 1.7 seconds faster in the box than Justin Ream was. So the strategy is all shaken out very, very strangely. Sean Campbell, 3 seconds less in the pit stall than anybody else. Has Ream overfueled the car, or has Campbell underfueled the car, or have neither of them done anything wrong? I don't know. I've been thinking out loud for the past minute and a half, and I can't explain anything, as I usually can't with the pit strategies that Sean Campbell comes up with.
Yeah, we'll have to see there. Here is Drew Price, another hard point by Delta Sport driver, trying to work his way by Jeffrey Seebach right now, as everyone has come in and out of pit lane. So this is a battle for position right now as they run. But Seebach looking like he's able to keep the legs here over Drew Price, and that hard point driver just not able to close it down there as they go through the Moraine sweep.
This is a recovery drive for Drew Price now. He was further up the field. Brian Vorse was up further through the field as well. And now they're just both trying to recover anything they can from this race. And in the team's championship, hard point by Delta Sport. They were in a pretty good position, forgive me, with Precision Racing Esports and their other competitors, YS Motorsports GT4. But with Owen Watts out of the question here, and with both of their drivers making mistakes, this is going to be kind of disastrous for hard point by Delta Sport. And it's going to be great for Precision Racing Esports with Michael Diaz in third and Jerome Bertiome for now in seventh, now that he's been demoted by Keith Bonilla. But it's been tough to go side by side with Keith Bonilla at this corner, but they both get away with it this time.
And I got to be watching for Rob Campbell there to maybe try to pick up some pieces, but Jerome able to keep very, very close behind Keith as they work their way through the final corner right now. Everybody onto the loud pedal, getting a big heaping helping of the draft right now. Keith Bonilla leading the way, breaking the air for the BMW and for the Aston Martin respectively. Is anybody going to have a little bit of a peek? Bonilla certainly wants to cover it off. He dives down to the inside. That's going to leave the outside of the lane open there for Jerome Berthiaume. They get down onto the binders, trying to see what it is. Almost contact there between the two, and Jerome Berthiaume forced wide. He's not going to be able to get the move done.
Yeah, Jerome had to back out of that one, leave Keith Bonilla the room. Rob Campbell almost gets into the back of Jerome. That BMW so quick in a straight line, but he just needed to be a little bit clearer of that Mercedes into turn one to confidently make that move. He's going to re-rack. He's going to try and go for it again and hope that this Aston Martin of Rob Campbell can't do anything in a straight line. It doesn't look like it's especially strong down this straight, at least into turn 5. Campbell's going to be a little bit later on the brakes, but that BMW, Jerome's been driving that BMW all season. It might not be the perfect car for everybody, but it is very quick in a straight line, and that's really what you want right now.
Yes, it is, that BMW M4 GT4, and I've got to say here, it's not the most favored car in this series, with really only 2 drivers consistently running it in the form of Sean Campbell and Jerome Berthiaume, but both of the drivers like this car, and it appears to be one of those cars that if you get the feel for it, it can really and truly come alive for you. So you kind of love to see that here for these drivers, as now Jerome works his way through the carousel. He's lost a little bit of time. The gap is up to about 6-7 of a second.
He's got Campbell all over the back of him. That's not what you want to see. You don't want to see a bright pink Aston Martin right behind you coming into the king, and Jerome's going to throw it off into the grass. That's going to slow him down. Luckily, he was able to keep that pointing in a straight line, but that's just what Rob Campbell needed to make up for the straight line speed deficit. He's going to be better on the brakes into Canada corner, and that's going to be Rob Campbell not through to 7th. I thought he had the perfect run there, but he just wasn't able to be late enough on the brakes. There's a lot of dust kicked up there. I wonder if he made a little bit of a mistake there on the inside. We couldn't see with the angle of that camera, but Campbell's very hungry here. He should have made the move, but for one reason or another, didn't work out for him.
No, it did not. As now it looks like it's going to be Jerome who may have to play a little bit of defense here as they climb the hill up towards the start-finish line right now. Is there going to be a little bit of a poke to the inside for Rob Campbell going into turn 1? The Aston Martin looking menacing there in the rear-view mirror. Here he comes into the braking zone. That pink Aston Martin able to get the crossover point, and that means Jerome Berthiaume's going to be able to hold on to the position for now. But did that compromise Rob Campbell at all here onto the Moraine sweep?
It might have compromised him, but it doesn't even matter if it compromised him right now, unfortunately for him, because the BMW is so strong in a straight line. The draft works for the Aston Martin. You can get a draft off the big rear end of the BMW, but unfortunately, Jerome is too quick in a straight line here. That's going to be disastrous for Rob Campbell in this little micro battle. But through the second half of the lap, far more twisty, far more cornery. That's where Rob Campbell's really been good. That's where he's really been hounding Jerome. He's got to be patient here. He's got to wait for another half a lap, but I think he'll have another shot.
Yeah, I think he will as well, as we do have about 10.5 minutes left to go here in this race. And I can tell you that up in front of this, Keith Bonilla, really, you can see there on your screen, starting to scamper away a little bit up in front of these 2 drivers. So he's really not under all that much pressure. The battle here really going on for 7th place.
Through the carousel, you can really see the difference here. That Aston Martin, it almost looks like a GT3 car versus a GT4 car. It's just so much faster through that corner. It just seems to have so much more downforce. It's so much more maneuverable. Through the kink again, Jerome sends it off into the grass, just puts one wheel off, one tire off this time, so it doesn't completely kill his run. And this time he's actually going to defend to the inside. He knows Rob Campbell wants the inside, but Campbell not close enough again. He needs more mistakes from Jerome, and he might have just got another one there. But no, Jerome's still clear. This is agonizing for Rob Campbell. He's so close, but he just needs a little bit more straight line speed.
Yeah, just needs that little bit extra oomph. Tries to take a little bit of a narrower line there going into the final corner to see if that would help him out ever so slightly, but I'm not sure that that's going to help him. And indeed, that gap is going to grow here to a couple of car lengths, and that is not what Rob Campbell really wants to be seeing.
Now he's just got to wait again. It's a long lap here, but it really rewards being patient. When you know you're faster in certain areas, he can't really push any harder on the straights. That just defies the laws of physics, but he knows he's faster in the second half of the lap, so he's just got to wait right now, be patient, maybe think about what you're going to do once that second half of the lap comes, and hope that Jerome makes a mistake for the third time in a row through the kink, because that's 2 laps in a row that the driver of the 217 has thrown it off the road in the kink, just taking a little bit too much speed, because he knows Campbell is fast through the high-speed corners. He knows he's better through all the high-speed corners, and the kink is where he's got to maximize his exits, and he's over-maximized it.
Yeah, he really is at this point. And Joey, you know as well as I do, if you're in the shoes here of Jerome, sometimes if you make that mistake once, it gets into your head a little bit. You fixate on it as you come up to the corner and you sort of tell yourself, don't make that mistake again, don't make that mistake again. And when you do that behind the wheel of a racing car, the only thing that really ever leads to is making that mistake again. You've got to get everything out of your mind and just let it go.
Speaking of the kink, we were about to see what Michael Diaz was going to do in the fellow Precision Racing esports car, but we'll see what Jerome does through the kink this time. The carousel, again, you'll see exactly the same thing I mentioned in the previous lap. The BMW just able to run that tighter line and also carry more speed simultaneously. It just looks so strong. Not able to peek to the inside of the kink, or maybe he does peek to the inside, tries to spook Jerome a little bit, but I think Jerome knew that Rob wasn't going to be able to make that move, and finally, third time's the charm for Jerome. He finally figured out the kink. He's going to keep it on the gray stuff, and that's very helpful for him. That's going to completely end Rob Campbell's chances of making a move on this lap, but another mistake comes. Rob Campbell's not going anywhere.
No, he's not, as they try to work their way now through Bill Mitchell Bend. 7.5 minutes or so left to go here in this race. Probably going to be 3, maybe 4 laps to go for these drivers at the line. We'll have to see how it pans out. Campbell does look like he gets a little bit of a better run there coming up and over that final corner. He's going to think about poking to the inside. He's going to think about staying in line. Aston Martin versus BMW here. Ooh, he's got a good draft run. Thinks about it again to the inside. Is he going to have that move going down into the braking zone? No, he's going to stick very close behind. Joey, I think that's the right call there. Goes around the outside a little bit, carries a little bit more momentum. Let's stay on the hood camera here and let's see how he handles out through turn 3.
A late send like that into turn 1, or even a late send like that into turn 3 wouldn't have been the move to make for Rob Campbell. And now, again, he's just going to have to wait here down this second straight, and for the frustratingly 4th lap, Rob Campbell's just going to have to do exactly the same thing and just hope that Jerome doesn't do exactly the same thing. That's how tough it is when you're racing with drivers at this high of a level. Jerome Bertiome, he's human. He makes mistakes. Everybody in the field does, but he doesn't make them often, and neither does Rob Campbell. So sometimes you just reach a stalemate like this. Rob Campbell needs to hope that the mistake that Jerome's made all race long into the kink, or maybe he finds a new place to screw up down here into turn 8. Nope, perfectly clean. Rob Campbell's got to wait for the kink again.
Yeah, I think you're right there. We'll have to see if that problem does arise once again here for Jerome Bertiome, but on the last couple laps, he's been able to keep it together. A little bit of a dab on the brakes there as they came through the carousel. That's to be expected here. Not nearly quite enough downforce to be able to make it through that corner absolutely flat out. A little bit of a pressure to the inside there from Rob Campbell. I like that move, and that's going to send Bertiome wide. That's exactly the maneuver that Campbell was looking for.
There it is. The third time finally comes. He still manages to hold a little bit of straight line speed. The grass clearly not the worst thing he can put a GT4 car into, but Jerome Bertiome keeps pointing in a straight line, and he actually didn't lose anything really there. He's going to be racking up the incident points, though, and that's what might be more important. We do have to think about that. 13 incident points, that gets you a penalty in this series, and if he's been throwing it off the kink just about every lap, he's going to be getting up there in incident points.
Here's another good battle to keep our eyes on with under 5 minutes to go in this race, and that is between Michael Diaz and Francis Castillo-Romero, the 2 drivers here for the Mercedes teams here, as it's going to be very, very close between the 2. Little bit of a squiggle there for Diaz. This could be the opportunity Castillo-Romero needs to be able to get the pass done here into 5.
Mercedes v. Mercedes. He's got the draft, but it seems like Diaz is just a little bit more trimmed out. He's faster in a straight line. Francis decent on the straight, but under braking, Michael Diaz just seems to find another gear, another brake pedal, and he's just so much stronger on the brakes. Francis just is not stronger in a straight line and not stronger on the brakes. And talking about frustrating things when you're in a race car, you're able to stick with Michael Diaz through all of these corners, but when it's really important, Francis just has not been able to make the move, and Michael Diaz has, I don't think, made a mistake all race here. It's a little bit of a train. There's 2 Precision Racing Esports trains right now, but they are very hard to break up, and as I say that, I think Campbell's just got by Jerome.
Yes, he has. That was a brilliant move there, coming up and over into turns 6 and 7. Let's go ahead and check out the replay here. Jerome just ran a little bit wide on the exit of turn 5 and up into turn 6. That was all the invitation that Rob Campbell needed. Textbook taking advantage of an error.
And now we'll see if Jerome can fight back. He's been on defense for so long. Can he fight back in a straight line through the carousel? He's already down, and unfortunately he's being kicked while he's down. The Aston Martin better through the carousel. It's going to be better through the kink. Jerome might be better in a straight line, but he's got to get closer to Rob Campbell, and that's going to be tough. And Bonilla and Rutherford, they're not done fighting either. This is for the last spot in the top 5. Remember, Bonilla has a little bit of damage on the front end of that car. Doesn't appear to be hurting him too badly, though. He's going to try and go around the outside of Canada corner.
Yes, he is, and Bonilla gets it to stick. That was some brave stuff there from the number 8. Oh, you're right. Jerome Berthiaume having a problem there down through Canada corner, and that is going to see that BMW with a whole lot of front-end damage. Oh, you hate to see that from a driver who has put in a fantastic day.
And that's the new damage model at work, unfortunately. Jerome now driving a tricycle, and that's so disappointing for him. That's going to be a solid run over. I don't know if he clipped the grass or clipped the gravel at the exit of Canada corner. We'll have to take a look at that, but that's going to promote Greg Doucette and Nicholas Carangis both up into the top 10. So strong runs for both of those Porsches, consistent runs. That's going to put them in the top 10. And Jerome's going to be rather disappointed, I'm sure, with this finish, and he'll put himself on admin duties for the next 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm sure he will, but I can tell you that it is 2 laps to go for all of the drivers out on track right now, including this fearsome battle between Diaz and Castillo-Romero as they climb up and under the Corvette bridge now. Castillo-Romero really trying to see if he can put the screws here to Michael Diaz. Not a lot of time left on the clock, only about a lap and a half here to sort all of this out.
Francis is going to have to send something to the inside, I think, because Diaz has just been in control of this battle. Francis needs to do something scary. Let's look at his teammate here, Michael Diaz's teammate, and yeah, just the barest clip of the gravel there completely unsettles the BMW of Jerome Berthiaume, and unfortunately, there is a very, very hard tire wall there. There was no avoiding that, and that's tragic for Jerome, but here comes Francis Castillo-Romero. This is his best run yet.
Yes, it is his best run yet. Is that going to be enough? Though it doesn't quite look like it. There's still about 2 car lengths in between himself and Michael Diaz, and call it about 2.5 tenths here as they dive into Canada corner for what will be the penultimate time, and it's not going to be enough. Both drivers there not making the same mistake that Jerome did and catching that outside gravel. Looks like Castillo-Romero, though, is able to close up a little bit coming up through Bill Mitchell Bend. Now into the last corner. He'll get another big helping of the draft as they climb up the hill and see the white flag.
Francis is running out of chances here. If he's just been hanging back, that's a good sign, because he might be able to make the move. If he hasn't been able to make the move legitimately, it's a very bad sign. But here we go. He finally is able to peek to the inside of Diaz. He almost turns him down the front straight. He tried to get to the inside and had to completely back out of it. That was interesting there, but Francis not able to make the move on this straight. He's got 2 more long straights to try and get to the inside of Michael. I think his best shot's going to be in turn 5. It's a long braking zone. It's a place where you can send a move to the inside and not wreck the guy on your outside. So if Francis really wants to win this race, I think, or win this podium, rather, this is his last real chance, I think, unless Diaz makes a mistake.
Yeah, I think you're right here, as it does look like he's closing down a little bit, but only 2.5 tenths separating the 2. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Diaz tries to cover off the inside there a little bit. Later on to the binders was
Only going to lose 2 spots though, so I'm sure he won't be too apoplectic, but that's disappointing for him as well. That was going to be a top 5 run for Keith Bonilla, and I don't believe he hit the wall, but that's going to be P7 for him. And another mistake for the Mercedes, but Mercedes versus Mercedes again. Francis Castillo-Romero running out of chances. His last chance is going to be through Canada corner.
Yes, it is. There they go. Ooh, almost thought about a little bit of a look there going into the carousel. Castillo-Romero keeping to apply the pressure here to the back of Michael Diaz as they come out of the carousel and now work their way towards the kink. It's flat out pretty much from here on this point. Just a little bit of a lift through this right-hander. There they go. Who was able to time that absolutely perfectly? A little bit of a washout there from Castillo-Romero. Is that going to cost him at all as they come down into the corner right now? You called it, Joey. This is now or never time for Castillo-Romero, and he doesn't have it. Oh, that is not going to be enough, but to be able to get it done as they continue to battle their way forward. Castillo-Romero looking this way, looking that way, but up at the front of the field, continuing on from where he left off. It still is a perfect season. Sean Campbell takes the victory here in Road America. Our newcomer, Justin Ream, only able to hold on to P2, and it looks like behind him, Michael Diaz also going to be able to hold on to that final podium position.
Race decided by 3.3 seconds of fuel fill. I hope we get to talk to Justin Ream and understand where that gap came from, because he was only 2.4 seconds behind Sean Campbell at the end. I'm sure Sean was saving a little bit of fuel, and Rob Campbell's made a mistake through the final corner. Luckily for him, Keith Bonilla has also made a mistake, and Bonilla's off the road too. What is going on in the final corner here? Everybody's throwing it off the road. I think Keith will be able to hang on here. Brian Vorse has a full head of steam. Keith, get on the throttle. Brian Vorse is going to jump him. It's going to be P7 for Brian Vorse.
Great run there. And is that a
He's out of fuel. He's out of fuel.
Yeah, he's out of fuel and climbing uphill. He may not even make the start-finish line.
I think he will, but he's going to lose the top 10 here. He's just crawling. Carangis is going to get by. Hoskins is going to get by. Oh, my goodness. What on earth is going on in the final lap? Hoskins and Ziti kill each other down the front straight, and Keith Bonilla can't make it to the line, so Carlos Lopez takes the last spot in the top 10. Andrew Venaro is going to finish P11 somehow. What in the world happened? This is Hoskins and Ziti. Ziti pokes out. Oh, Hoskins had to avoid Bonilla, who was stopped on the track, and nothing either of them could do there. There was just a car stopped in front of Hoskins, and he had to do that. That's just a terrible situation.
Yeah, just completely unsighted there was Hoskins. Unfortunately, had to get out of the way to try to avoid incident, and that was going to cause the crash there with himself and Ziti. As we wait here for Matt Dinsmore, the last driver to finish. He will be coming home in, I believe, 17th, although he could move his way up forward depending. It's going to be a little bit interesting on how that shakes out with Hoskins, Ziti, and Bonilla all having that accident. We'll have to see what shakes out, and indeed, he is going to be able to cross over now in 14th position to finish out the race. My goodness gracious, as they go. And that is going to bring us here to our final finishing order on the day. It was Sean Campbell able to take victory. Justin Ream and Michael Diaz round out your podium. Francis Castillo-Romero in 4th and Darren Rutherford in 5th. Rob Campbell was 6th, followed by Brian Vorse, Greg Doucette, Nicholas Carangis, and Carlos Lopez round out your top 10. In 11th, it was Andrew Venaro, followed by Drew Price, Jeffrey Seebach, and Matt Dinsmore, the last driver on the lead lap. Keith Bonilla was a lap down, followed by Brian Hoskins and Blake Ziti. Then Jerome Bertium, Jacob Kruger, and Matthias Arunga, DNFs here on the day. Owen Watson, Adam Brockway, both non-starters. And Joey, as we wait here for interviews to come on through Road America, we promised a lot, and boy, oh boy, did it deliver.
It seemed like it delivered all on the final lap for positions like 9 to 14. They all decided to go crazy in the final corner. But again, it's another enthralling strategy race. It was not a race decided on track. It was a race that ended with a 2.4 second gap between Campbell and Ream. But you have to reverse that gap to 3.3 seconds between the both of them, and that's what decided the gap. If that made any mathematical sense, it's such an interesting dynamic, and it's such an interesting strategy game every week. And I hope that one of these weeks we get to talk to Sean Campbell. I hope if Justin Ream, you're listening, I hope we get to talk to you in a few seconds, because I really want to understand how there was such a discrepancy between their two pit strategies.
Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting thing. And you are prescient, Joey, because Justin Ream has joined us here. Justin, first off, welcome into the PRL, my friend. Good to see you out there. And how was your race?
It's a lot of fun. It was the first time doing this series, so I had a lot of fun. It's a good competition.
Well, it sounds like, Justin, you're a little bit robot-y there on us, but we can still hear you. I want to ask you a little bit about the pit stop strategy. It looked like there that you may have overfueled the car a little bit. Was that the issue, or did Sean just massively underfuel the car and make fuel strategy work?
I think Sean made fuel strategy work, because I finished the race with like a liter left or something like that. So I did a little lift and coasting in the first little bit, and then I think my last 2 laps before the pits, I went full out to see if I could get some sort of gap. But I guess he must have had a really good fuel strat.
I mean, clearly he had something there, but are we going to be able to see you back in the next couple of weeks to finish out the season?
I'll be here to finish up the season. I didn't even know the series was going on until I caught the broadcast race at Lime Rock a few weeks ago. So,
well, fantastic, my friend. We look forward to seeing you out on track. And is there anybody you'd like to thank for this podium here tonight?
Just Alpine Stars Geodesic and the team. Helpful.
Hey, well, thank you so much. That was Justin Ream, your second place finisher here tonight. And Joey, that looks like it's about the last person to talk to us, unfortunately, so that's about going to wrap things up for us. But are there any final thoughts you have on what was a fantastic night of racing?
We will get to talk to Sean Campbell at least one time before the end of the season. I think he's given us that promise, so hopefully in the next 3 weeks, we've got 3 weeks to go. Hopefully he decides to show up one of these weeks, because I want to talk to the mystery man. If he can pull off this perfect season, I'm in the commentary box. I'm supposed to be unbiased, but when records put themselves on the table, you kind of want to see them be broken. A perfect season would be pretty cool for Sean Campbell, but every single other driver in the field wants to make for darn sure that he does not break that record and he does not win every single race this season.
Indeed. And next time out there, you can see it on your screen, we head to Brands Hatch. That'll be next Monday, August 15th. I'm trying to get 2 months ahead of us in time there. It'll be August 15th at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time. But until then, on behalf of myself, DJ Clark, Joey Tebbin, and our director and producer, Hugo Louise, it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action here today. And until we see you out on the track, thanks for watching.